And there we go. Welcome everyone to Fated Connections episode number 85. We're 12 days into the Lake of Kalandra expansion. We've already had 2 episodes with a hyper focus on one of the biggest problems that we see right now, and that is the loot. And today we're going to talk about everything else, if possible, that the patch brought with it. Like last 2 podcasts got a little bit drowned out by the loot problem, which was very important to talk about, but there's still tons of other great things about Path of Exile, and evidently we're all still playing. We haven't abandoned the ship yet. And in order to discuss all of this stuff, we got next to BalorMage, as always, our friend Crouching Tuna and Palsteron, who's making his second appearance as well. And before we go into everything, let's just quickly hear from our guests how the league start has been. Obviously, Balor and I talked about it at length already, but specifically for Tuna and Palsteron, we don't know. How have you guys been doing? Tuna, will you quickly do us the favor of letting us know how the league start's been going?
Sure. League start was alright for me. It wasn't so bad. The early progression was a little bit scuffed because I feel like just missing lead mechanic, as part of the progression. Usually you have a lead mechanic to sort of boost you along the way. But quickly progressed into T16s. I got to T16s and I was like, cool, this is all good. And I messed around with my Atlas passive tree. And then I accidentally spec'd singular focus without realizing it. And then I dropped down back to T12s. And then I realized I had singular focus. So I unspec'd that and I went back up to T16s and everything was good again. So that was pretty much day 1. And
what build did you go with, if I may ask?
I started on Spectral Helix Poison Pathfinder, and the goal was to reroll into Scourge or Ballista Poisons. So yeah, that was the plan, and it went pretty good. And yeah, I think Spectral Helix was just fine. I didn't really feel any issues with the damage, with the progression, or anything like that. It was just sort of like a bit of a drag the first 2 days, because obviously playing Spectral Helix is not like the player's most favorite thing, but it's a really strong skill and it gets you to where you need to be. So
just real quick, you've played Spectral Helix before.
Yeah.
Did you feel a slight difference in the way Spectral Helix played immediately from Act 1?
I didn't know. I didn't notice
Several
at all.
people in my party were leveling with it, and each individually said, why does Spectral Helix feel better while leveling? And we've all been trying to work it out. And then I went and leveled a bit with Spectral Helix, and it feels better than it did before. And I don't know why. I haven't been able to figure it out. It's the same skill.
It's OP, man. It's so strong.
It used to just feel trash and just be good anyway. And now it feels good, and I can't figure out why.
I think it's one of those things that the more you play with it, the more you're like, this is actually quite good. Like, I used to hate it as well, and then it kind of grew on me, especially considering that like other skills are just miserable to level with. And then you put on Spectral Helix, and you're just like, oh, thank God, dude. Like, it's just like, it's so good. So you get through the axe, you get through the leveling, you get to early maps, you can get to T16s on a 4-link, you're like chilling. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a really good skill. It's really good to, get started and stuff. Yeah, so I played Spectral Helix for like a day or 2, and then I swapped into Scourge or Ballista, and I just started blasting like altars and stuff. And altars are just as OP as they always are. Dropping a shitload of stuff, and basically got myself set up, and I farmed the belt as I usually do, and then now I rerolled into something else.
The skull belt?
Yeah,
or the syringe belt?
No. We don't talk about it. We don't talk about syringe belt.
All right.
Only weirdos use that one.
True.
Sounds good. Sounds like we got a weirdo here. No. How's it going, Palsteron? What was your league start, and how did that go for you? Give us the story.
I was trying out Trickster. I was doing Caustic Arrow Ballista. Scaling wise, pretty similar to what Tuna did, just a little bit different. I don't know. Went really good. I feel like it's pretty underrated, probably. It's pretty fun. Was kind of cruising. Then I got a Covenant, and it was just like, okay, the game's over. And then I just did, basically everything with it. And it was pretty much a cruise ever since, like, I don't know. I mean, the start was Poisonous Concoction, which was super easy. It's like one of the best leveling skills. Into Caustic Arrow, it was super easy. The only thing that was annoying was like some of the Archnem mods, obviously, like the Chaos Weaver stuff like that was really annoying because it was kind of reliant on Wither. But yeah, and I wasn't a cultist, so I don't have minus Chaos Res much. But yeah,
Were you still playing that when the Archnemesis nerfs hit?
yeah, you could. The new ones
immediately
without
better?
Wither. No,
Yeah.
I've already rerolled. Yeah, but I mean, I can assume it's like more than double the damage against Chaos Weaver. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks like it should be way better.
yeah.
You don't even feel the rares anymore. Which I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but yeah, they're just non-existent.
Basically.
I did
I mean,
notice that.
I don't know how much that is because we're also now geared, right? I think it's both.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like you could feel them a little bit more before.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, I mean, definitely.
Maybe a little bit too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the early progression is really tough. I think, as I said earlier, as well, I think the early progression in this league was especially tough because there's no league mechanic. Like there is a league mechanic, but there kind of isn't, right?
The only thing nice about the league mechanic was like the second league I did had like 13 essences, and I was like level 20. I was like, okay, now I get rare gear. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was really
insane.
good for early essences, but the essences are scaled so hard with the Archnemesis modifiers and the difficulty of the lake.
True.
That combination makes it feel like almost like a waste of time in the higher difficulties, like towards the end of the lake, to engage with essences.
Yeah. I mean, if you're running Helix or Poison Conch, that doesn't even matter. You're just shredding either way.
You get carried,
I mean, I was Armor Brand Cremation, which is also like really good for leveling. And on the one lake I did, I danced around an essence monster for like 2 minutes. I think I portaled out twice. That was an Act 6. Portaled out twice to refill flasks. And
what difficulty did you put it at? Because that's like substantial.
Must have been like
there.
6 or 7 or something like that.
Yeah, okay, that's out of control.
Okay, that's
for like early levels.
You just put it on the first one. It doesn't matter, right? You
now I do the same.
Rare. Yeah.
Now I do the same, but like I didn't know, obviously. But I think that was the lake where that was offset by me getting like an insanely good leveling amulet with like 150 life and plus 70 dex from the reflection thing, so that's great. But then after that didn't do any lakes and just waited until maps because I was like, well, I mean, I already got an insanely good leveling amulet. What can I still get from the lake that it would be worth setting me back in progression, right? I just want to be in foothills as soon as possible and unlock my my syndicate and then get into maps.
Mm-hmm.
The Archnemesis is a good topic, though. Do you feel they're completely gone now? All the monsters, Tuna? You said you don't feel the rares anymore. Because I personally had that feeling on my character, but people told me my opinion is not valid because I was a minion build, right? So it's like you don't feel anything anyway. You just run in circles until everything's dead.
Well, like the only thing that like even on my league started that I really felt was Chaos Weaver. Like there's always gonna be like one mob that counters you.
Yeah.
Whatever build you're playing. I feel like that's okay. The only thing that's like annoying as hell is when you get like a mob that's like turbo juiced, like soul eating with like 3 other mods, and then you just got no outplay potential because he's stunning you or some shit like that. I feel like that sucks. But if a mob takes like twice as long to kill, it's not the end of the world. It's not like the whole map is Chaos Weavers, right? So I wasn't really too fussed.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even get them every map, right? It's like every couple of maps you get a pack here or there.
Like they're the most common mods.
You definitely do,
yeah.
Yep. They're like in every map.
They're the most common mods. Like you'll always get like Frost Weaver, Chaos Weaver. Like they're gonna be like everywhere. And then like there's gonna be like the rare modifiers. Like Soul Eaters are definitely rare now. You maybe get like one or two per map. Like things like that. Depends like obviously how much you're putting into your maps. But if you're in T14s, man, the mob density is there. So you're gonna get enough rares to actually still get a fair share of all the modifiers.
All right. And before moving on to the next question, should probably give everyone little bit of an opportunity to speak on Archnemesis.
I don't personally love what GG does with Archnem. I don't love the idea of like introducing difficulty into the main game instead of opt-in. I think they're now pretty tame, but I just have like kind of the feeling that they're gonna try it again and again, and I don't know if they really have like a good grasp on how they want to balance it. So I'm a little bit scared of Archnem every league now.
Well, I mean,
It's like 3.18 for me was pretty like the first 2 days was so rough. I remember that was not fun. This league wasn't even as bad as 3.18 in terms of Archnem, I think, but they're still just trying it every league, and it kind of feels like it should just not be a thing. I don't know.
so
3.18 was horrible.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I was a huge fan of Archnemesis in theory. For a while, I've been like, no, Archnemesis is a good direction. Like, Res should be difficult. Res should be difficult and then rewarding. It's just, I feel like I've changed my opinion over time because it's just been forced and shoehorned into every single mechanic, and now everything just feels like Archnemesis.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, I'm not opening a breach. I'm just opening more Archnemesis rares. I'm not breaking open a Legion. I'm just hunting Archnemesis rares.
Like if you're not scared from Exalt or like Ash, but you're scared from an Archnem rare, something's wrong, right?
Yeah, like I don't care if Ash shows up in my breach. In fact, I don't even kill him.
No.
I'm just looking for more rares because they're the ones I have to pay attention to. That's weird. I think after a bunch of nerfs that they've had, they're in a more manageable spot now. I think they're still going to get one more round of nerfs where they like stop certain combinations from showing up together. And then I think by then we'll be in a good spot and they'll actually be okay. But it's a very weird thing to force this hard when players in general have hated it. They're really forcing Archnemesis.
I mean, maybe they have some grand plan for it in PoE2. I don't know. Could be. So
I mean,
yeah.
Looking back at old mods, it's like, who liked Nemesis mods? It's just a bunch of shit like in your way, right? It's the same thing here, except sometimes it's more annoying. I don't know, man. Like I remember, like Lightning Mirage. That's not a new thing. Like volatiles, the volatiles have gotten worse, that's for sure. But I feel like
the chaos balls, dude,
to be annoying. It was kind of like they just did a pass over everything, and the problem is I think that like the mods themselves are much more powerful compared to what they used to be, and there's much more deadlier combinations. So I'm not a fan of like making PoE into hard mode specifically. So like what Palsteron said with like having more opt-in difficulty is good, but at the same time I feel like there needs to be some sort of like, I think it's okay for them to actually want to have people like look at what they're fighting.
A little bit of friction is what you mean?
At least a little bit of like sort of like maybe a little bit of thought from the players as to what they're doing in the first week. Because past the first week, it doesn't really matter anymore, right? But yeah. The problem is that like many players don't really get past the first week, which is the main issue with Archnemesis, is people experience what it's like to get butt slapped by them, but then they never do the butt slapping themselves. So
I mean, I feel like the main problem with Archnem is also that it comes at a time where GGG is kind of like making the game harder on other ends as well, right?
Yeah.
Like 3.15 support gem. Yeah, it's a compiling problem. I think if, for example, 3.50 never happened, right? I mean, obviously that's like done and right. But if that never happened, I think Archnem wouldn't be that bad. Or if like, I don't know. I think it's just a compounding thing.
I think I'm a strong believer of like if we had like a league mechanic that wasn't so terrible this time around in regards to like rewards. Like imagine if we had like ultimatum as league mechanic this league. I don't think like 90% of the people would have complained about loot, for example.
No, probably not. Yeah, like so much loot was Sentinel as well last league.
Yeah. I think that's the main issue with this league is like overall when you get to T14s plus, you don't actually truly notice a difference. You're clicking altars, you're getting a shitload of loot. Like, yeah, if you're a juicer, you lost, right? But the people complaining ain't juicers, man. Like,
yeah,
it's like it's a little bit of like someone saying something like juicers are complaining, and then everyone's saying like, oh yeah, see, this is how bad it is.
Like every
like,
single
look
time,
at like a juiced alva and nothing drops. It's like
Yeah,
Bro,
every
like-
single time somebody doesn't get a life force from a harvest, it gets posted on Reddit. Literally every single time. Like, all right, bro, we got you.
It was fine the first few times. I was like, why is there no life force? No, it's been done. We know there's no life force
Yeah.
in harvest. It's not newsworthy.
Like, harvest
It's-
farm is actually pretty damn good. That's the funniest part.
People are farming
think
that
people
shit. Yeah,
realize-
they're making
It,
bank.
Yeah.
it does. It does
Fucking-
look like
fucking
actually fully
bank.
specking into it looks okay now.
Yeah,
It's
fully
you don't even
spec'd
have to
into
fully
it.
spec into it. I like I'm doing like mesas with expedition and harvest, and it's T14 horizonable, right? So you have infinite sustain. You just go into the middle, and if you're like on the outer skirts of the middle, you can always see everything that's on the outside. Then you just jump to the expedition or jump to the harvest, and I don't even have sextants or anything. It's just the base chance, right? And you make like, I don't know, 30 like 20-ish chaos per map or something, and it takes like, I don't know, less than a minute. It's pretty chill.
Yeah.
So yeah, you also get like
Although-
completions for imitations. Like you make a lot of money from harvest, even if you don't have like giga juice.
I think the problem with Harvest is though that just for a lot of people it provided so much crafting power in the mid and low end. Like when you just get into maps, you get so many rerolls and you're just not getting them anymore. Like I think the Harvest values that you get, the life force that you get with some reasonable investment and in higher tiers is actually completely fine, but it just feels really like you do like 3 or 4 harvests and you can afford like 2 or 3 rerolls fire or rerolls life or something like that. It just feels really bad when you just got into maps. And as someone who's playing SSF this league, I can totally empathize with the people who say harvest feels bad. But yeah, I
think the lower values. Yeah, I think the lower values should be. I also don't even think they should be different values. I think at this point you could probably make it like same value. Like everything could cost like 30 or 40. Probably
you could
of
make
those
the
crafts.
costs of the harvest craft scale with the item level that you put in, or at least have that effect or something like that. It's cheaper to roll a lower level item because you can't get the good tiers anyway, or something like that. Although that would
Maybe.
probably needlessly complicate the system.
Yeah, probably.
Actually, I have different issues with harvest. To be honest, I think it's just like the way that they stripped it down to it being no more likely crafts. So
Oh
it's
my
like,
god, yeah.
Like why do I care about a singular modifier when I can just have a 10 times chance with a fossil? It's like, yeah, okay, it might be good for forcing something, but there's no world where I'm gonna use that like on an item when it's just like you get one fizz mod of any tier and then nothing else that's actually related to fizz, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's a big
When
issue.
I could essence spam for tier 1
Yeah,
of that.
Horizon spam, right? Exactly. Another issue is that they no longer alch your items. So early league, I'm using all of my alchemy orbs with Kirak. All of them are gone.
Mm.
And in this league specifically, there was no source of bubblegum as you're progressing through the atlas, and all your fucking shit is going to Kirak. And so I can't craft my gear because I'm like there like thinking like I gotta scour out this blue base, so then I can put it in a bench and spend a shitload of this juice to be able to reroll it once to get one life mod. Like, are you like, it's like that's not okay. And there's obviously other issues with the fact that you can't craft flasks anymore. I think is terrible, and many other endgame issues, right? That we're pretty much aware of, that you can't reforge prefix, suffix. So when you get an item and you accidentally fill up your prefixes and you're working on suffixes, you gotta annul it, or
I didn't
gotta use an
realize the
augment.
flask thing.
Yeah, you can't craft flasks. That was like one of the things that I really enjoyed doing early league, is like making my flask.
Wait, you just
good.
can't? It just says you can't do flasks anymore?
Well, it can't because it needs to be rare.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, right. Previously it was magic or rare, and now it has to be rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I picked up all my flasks off Droughtbringer mob, so I didn't even roll them. There were just so many
Right.
flasks that I picked up ones that already had the rolls I was after.
Fair enough.
I think I really miss the more likely and the less likely, because like
Yeah.
there's so many straightforward crafts in this game where you just like, okay, you put an essence on, you get one mod. You put fossils on, you get like fire, physical. But that mod was so big brain. Like there's people who actually used it so well, and those kind of crafts are so rare in this game. I feel like they will be missed. I think with keep prefix, keep suffix, it's a pretty big loss, but I think it's pretty pretty normal for what GG usually does. Like when they removed Eternal Orbs back in the day, I just don't think they like having safe states for people. They don't want people to make perfect items. It kind of makes sense for their vision. I don't know if I agree, but overall, I actually don't think their removal is actually as bad as people think, because it will basically just mean that your mirror tier items are a little bit worse and your mid tier items are like one stat worse probably. I don't think that's like the biggest deal, honestly.
Well, to be fair, on a lot of items you could still use Eldritch crafting, since most likely you're going for Eldritch implicits anyway. You're not going for the regular influences on most items.
I mean, I'm not gonna downplay it. It's like huge, right? You don't get the safe state anymore. Like, good items are gonna cost way more. But I think I'm just saying. I think that's exactly what they want. I don't think we're gonna get it back.
No, and it's also a healthy thing if good items are expensive to get.
I think in this case, I think it's like a little bit terrible, to be honest.
I'm personally sad that those things are gone, like Reforge keeping prefix and keeping suffixes. I'm like personally sad that they're gone, but only like that feels like just for me. Like I feel like if I look at like the overall game, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have been able to make an item like that easily, reliably, league after league after league with no fail state. Probably wasn't that good of a thing to just have guaranteed stuff.
Yeah, the Divines though, right? Or 2 Exalts as it used to be.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, oh, whatever, right? But that's still like an expensive craft. Like you buy 1x from somebody with 1 Divine now or whatever, like for Reforge keep suffix, and then from there you gotta go again with the suffixes or prefixes can't be changed, which was a 2 Exalt craft. So it's like it's not cheap, but it's just a nice way to be able to be like, okay, I just spent a lot on my suffixes. Now let's work on prefixes. It's kind of like, yeah, as Palsteron said, like a checkpoint, right? And I feel like, as much as they don't like that, I feel like it's healthy for players to have that sort of like, let me put that aside and I can keep working on this.
I think that, I mean, I don't think it really matters for like the average player. So I don't think it's like a lot of crafters right now feel like are kind of doomsaying about those mods and saying like, oh, trickle down economy. If we're not making crappy items anymore, all the items are gonna get more expensive. I think that's a boogeyman, right? I think mostly it's just they don't get their perfect items anymore. Now they have like 5 stats with 1 crafted mod, and everything's still gonna be fine, probably.
Yeah, like everything's fine, right? Like, don't get me wrong, but it's like it's not as fine as it used to be.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Sorry.
People love to use trickle down economy, but they
my God,
use it right. They don't understand the phrase. Like,
it's not even a thing, but yeah.
It's a thing.
Let's not get into it. Let's not get into it.
It's not real.
Let's please not get into that one.
Is it real in PoE? Is the question.
It's sort of, but not the way 90% of people use it. It's not. Like, I've seen that exact argument of like, oh, but if I'm not crafting my GG items, then all the items will become cheaper because of trickle down and more expensive. And I'm like, that's not even the case, because now you fail your average items more often and you want to sell them. You're like, oh, I only hit 4 mods in a crafted instead of 5 or 6 mods. Gotta yeet that item away.
If you want to talk about like big, like average player, I think the fractured mods are so like the new fractured items are so huge.
Oh, yeah.
Like I bought like I think day 2 or day 3, I bought like perfect spell suppression fracture on like a good glove base for like 40 chaos. It's like insane, completely out there.
Massive.
Or even like you can get sword gloves with like tier 1 cold res fractured for 2 chaos. It's like insane.
Yeah, it's like fractures are like out of control. That's actually one of the things that
that's it.
It's one of the things like I don't want to take credit, but I personally talked to Chris about fractured items being good for the game. Like when I had a chat with him, so hopefully he took that to heart.
Was that on the podcast with Gazi and Grim, or?
Yeah, in the 315 incident.
Fractured items are almost perfect because without recombinators existing, like fractured items almost stops you from being able to make absolute disgusting GG items out of them. But it makes it way easier to make low to mid tier gear, even to like decent, like above mid tier, but not disgusting OP gear.
You can
It
even make
makes
like
that whole lower range quite a bit easier to make.
yeah, with Abyss Fossils you can even make some endgame gear, right? It's like Hollow Fossils or whatever, right? So yeah.
One thing to note as well, that back on the harvesting though, that's actually like quite good now, is that compared to what it used to be, Fractured is like much more achievable.
Oh my god, yeah. I did that on my boots. I have like Abyssal Socket Fracture and it cost me like 6 divines or something. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Like
Oh
it
my
used to
God,
cost
yeah.
you 6 divines to even try it, like one attempt
Or-
basically.
Yeah, or can we talk about like Reforge Influence not needing to wait like a week until you have enough like
Right.
Reforges from TFT? You're just like, yo, I have 10 divines to spend. Let me reroll some. It's so insane.
Like
I love
there's a
it.
lot of nice things about current harvest, but there's small pet peeves that I just can't get away from, like the more likely and shit not getting alked and not being
Dude.
able to use it on flasks. It's like, why?
Dude, more likely to get scammed, dude. That's
It's like,
it.
Come on.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. Hope they do look at
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. I really like the quality of life. I'm not sure anymore from an SSF point of view, but if I compare it to my like last league softcore trade, like if it was opt in, the current state of harvest versus the old harvest, I would have opted into this state like 10 times, because it's just so good not having to stand there and think about your crafts, but just getting the life force and thinking about
Yeah.
it later. And then when you want to use the crafts, you can use the crafts only limited by your life force and not limited by how many crafts of which kind you already found. They're all sort of interchangeable because of the life force. And that makes what I'm sad about from an SSF point of view is definitely losing the color changes, like only being able to make sockets white and that requiring a lot makes it so hard to like get off colors on your gear, to get a def solve to the right colors, back to using the Rarity method for that. And
Well, Tainted Chromatics are pretty decent actually. They're pretty good.
True. Tainted
did that on
chromatics
my-
are a thing, but you do
on
have
mine,
to corrupt it then. So
Yeah. Just don't be a
There's
pussy.
man,
one
that's kinda
Tainted
good.
Currency that's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
guess you got
Harvest.
30% corruption, right? In Menagerie still, so it's.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
could
true,
save-
true.
You could
yeah.
save it.
I mean, what I don't like about the new Harvest system is that I feel like the Life Force system might make it into like before you would use all your crafts if you know what you're doing, and now it's just kind of gated behind the one craft that's more worth than all the others. Like for example, if you're doing
yeah, I get
red
what
crafts, right? All your currency will be. It would basically be worth it. It will probably not be worth it because everybody's buying them up for Fracture, and therefore the prices go up. If that makes sense, right? All the prices will kind of be balanced around the best craft of that Life Force color.
That's exactly what I thought when I first saw the crafts, and I thought juicing was still alive. I saw the one that said like where it would save your sextants, and I thought like, oh man, if groups are like, this is like you're not gonna be crafting with harvest anymore. Groups are just gonna buy your juice and they're just gonna spam these sextants, like awakened sextants and everything. But then I didn't expect
all the groups to break up and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one
So they're
expected
too,
that.
yeah.
You're not alone. It's
yeah, but to be fair, like that's something that they can easily adjust. Like they can introduce like tiers of the life force, right? So like you have different more different types of life force for the different crafts, so they don't compete for the same currency. And they could also adjust the prices, like if one of the red force crafts is like way better bang for your buck, they could just make that twice as expensive, and then the other ones are more favorable.
Yeah, but it's just a nightmare to balance, right? I feel like so that's a problem. But on the other hand, what I love about Harvest, I mean, everybody loves this, right? But just not losing your groove while you're mapping, right?
Yeah,
like going into
exactly.
Harvest and then, what I do for this, what I do for that. No, you just want to focus on blasting, right? Have your music on, have your chat or something, and just
exactly,
blast,
because
right?
sometimes you're in the mood for sitting in your
You're in the
hideout and
zone.
crafting. Sometimes you're in the mood for blasting maps. But like it always felt so off that the game was forcing you to engage with the system, and if not, then you'd be missing out big time. And that was also my biggest problem, is like Harvest was always too strong and too central to the item creation process that like even in non-SSF, it would feel like early league you'd have to spec into Harvest, and that you'd be heavily favoring Harvest over other league mechanics because you'd just be able to get crafts that you could sell for so much.
I feel like they also gave some some other
Yeah.
stuff like fossils, kind of like an identity again, right? If you think about like more common crafts, like life more common or whatever, that's
Yeah.
basically like fossils identity just better. And them taking that away kind of makes sense. Like fossils are like sort of expensive again, and that's because they kind of fill that role, right? They are now the more common again, but
So
not as
that
strong.
would also make Delve worth running again for
Yeah,
fossils.
it's like fossils were really bad last few leagues. I felt like, other
You
than
don't
some
get
specific
fossils
ones.
from Delve, man.
You
You get
get
fossils
them from Deli Orbs, easy.
Yeah, or anything else. 3D incubators.
But
It's
you
much
do have
faster.
to get resonators from Delph.
Yeah,
True.
unfortunately, But like, look, listen. I think fossils are terrible. They completely stripped them of everything that was good about them. Like they used to have unique mods to them, and why you got rid of them? Why like it's like, is 2% life really that bad? Is minus chaos on helmets like, that shit used to be great. Used to be a
No,
reason
but it
to
would
wear
make
blue
it so
in the
that
league.
with a
More
non
bleed.
it would make it so that with a non-fossil crafted item you could never get a better item than with a fossil crafted one. So
Yeah, but we're past
it
that,
makes
no?
sense.
Except that the most exciting gear from Delve, all of it is drop only. It's stuff that drops on the floor with a mod that can't exist, that you can't roll with fossils. The only way
Yeah.
it drops is on the floor. Those are all the ones I'm excited about.
Yeah.
They only drop on the floor. Can't even use fossils to make them.
Yeah, but that's good. And you can drop them as fractured now. I found an amulet with fractured +1 zombies this league already. Which, if it was skeletons, that would actually be good. One more gripe I have about the harvest right now, though, is that the harvest crafting bench doesn't show me my life force values. It feels so odd that my life force is going into my currency tab, and then on the harvest thing I can't see it. I'd much prefer it if the harvest was sort of like a dedicated stash for that sort of stuff, just like the expedition currency goes into the expedition locker and heist goes into the heist. And if the life force automatically went into my Hordy crafting station and was stored there, and I could see the values there, that would be much better.
True.
And other than that, I think Harvest got a little. I mean, the UI looks weird, but I'm happy that finally I get to tell beforehand again what monsters I get from the Harvest. That might not matter to you guys because you blow it up instantly. But like early on, when I'm pushing ahead in HCSSF, I don't want to be doing too many of those crush claws or of those weird
It
bears.
definitely matters, especially considering that like there used to be like just random monsters basically.
Yeah,
Before. It was just like, a full plot of like crush claws. Yeah, it's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like, whereas now you have like, you literally have like, one or two of the T3 seeds or whatever, and then everything else, scattered amongst it. So I think it's like much better. But I think people had issues with Archnemesis mods at the start of the league, so it was like quite rough at the start. Let's just say, I think. For many
it
people.
still feels better for me than last league, honestly. Like last league, I had so
Last league
many
was
problems
so
with
bad.
Archnemesis modifiers, especially in
Dude.
Harvest,
Mm.
and
But you gotta
especially in
consider that
Gauntlet. Oh,
Last league was a complete disaster, so
Yeah.
it's hard to compare to it. And also at the start of this league, they increased the monster HP by like 50% on rares or something like that. So I remember at the start of the league, I was killing a rare, and then you run to the map boss, and the map boss dies twice as fast. I don't think that's how the game should feel, right? Like, they just feel scuffed. It's like, yeah, I hate to say it, but like, you either buff the map boss or...
Buff map bosses.
Yeah, I mean...
So it's the same with
give them
loot.
more
Like,
loot, like, I don't know.
yeah, like loot is also so much more from Archnemesis. Like, it
Yeah.
feels so goofy now. It doesn't even feel like bad, but it just feels goofy. Like, completely random. Like, they're just like, yo, give us a random change. All right, we're just gonna have like loot explosions from Archnem with random shit. I don't know. It just feels so weird.
I kind of like the loot explosions, but so long as it's not like the only thing I'm looking for, right? Which is
Yeah.
like, I lost my juicing, and that was the fun part. But if it's all just gonna be about hunting explosions, and it's gonna have like a limited lifespan in terms of fun, I feel.
Probably.
I do feel like now that I can't juice, I do feel like my new strategy is just add as many rares as I can, looking for the correct loot goblin. And I'm not
Pretty
sure
much,
I love that. I'm not sure I love that at all.
Yeah.
yeah.
To be fair,
About that, loot-
you can
Yeah,
still
please go ahead.
semi-choose. Like Delimera is still decent, right? Like I saw Rue do it in like ramparts, look pretty decent.
Yeah,
especially
I've been
because I
running Daily Mirror,
think
it's good. It's
yeah,
because it's cheap, to be honest.
I think it also, I don't know if that's true, but does the quantity and rarity bonus also scale the Archnem mobs? I'm not 100% sure from
It
like the
does.
Daily Mirror. It does, right? So
It should.
it feels really
Absolutely
good.
does, yeah.
Like I'm running it on my harvest expedition strat I said earlier, and whenever I get like a random one, I just get like free 15 chaos or whatever from it, and good pack size. It's pretty good. So I think Deli Mirror is still really good. So it's not like I think juicing would have died no matter what with the death of Beyond. Like not died, but like what we call juicing would have been dead either way with Beyond removed.
I mean, a large part of it is it's hard to tell apart, but like a large part of what people are perceiving is Beyond. I mean, we know how many monsters were added to the maps from Beyond. It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, even in like moderately juiced content that I ran in the 3.17 gauntlet, like I easily got between 10 and 20 Beyond bosses. And obviously that doesn't compare at all to what you can do in softcore terrain. And like, yeah, the number that they wrote in their post where they said up to 200 unique bosses from Beyond, yeah, that doesn't seem unlikely.
Yeah.
I don't think Beyond should die though. Like I think Beyond right now is like it's got a lack of rares.
Worthless.
Sure. Well, it's worthless because of certain things. Like, well, it's really sad for me because I used to really love Beyond and I used to really love Scourge, and now they put them together and they both suck.
Both suck, yeah.
Yeah, they're both bad. Yeah.
So, but like I would just love to see them like actually work on it rather than just like I'm really kind of like a little bit sad this league because it seems like they're so hyper focused on trying to please people with the whole loot thing when it's kind of like there's so many more issues with the game that would make the game so much more fun if they actually looked into them. Like for example, like the league mechanic.
Yeah,
like,
holy.
Like
I think
hello?
honestly, if Lake was good, I think so many people, like you said earlier, would just forgive a lot of the flaws. Like
it's
Do you
also
think
so
it's really
close
easy
to
to
being
fix
good.
the lake too? Because I think it's super easy to fix the lake.
I
I think they're going about it all wrong.
Just give
No,
it
I
a
think-
times 10 to loot. Like,
Yeah, no,
terrible.
like at least double the loot from it, and then I think they're doing the right step first, which is like increase the mist, the reflection thingy, which is actually pretty crazy. Like I've done some things with it. It's
I
like
saw it once this league.
yeah,
Killed, like,
and now you're
millions
gonna
and millions.
now you're probably gonna see it twice, right? OP.
Yeah.
No,
So
but
I
I think
think-
that's a good idea.
I think if you're running like, high tier maps, so you get the big buildings of them, I think you should be getting one of those mists every 3 to 4 tablets
Yeah, for sure.
on average. I think it should be that common.
Like
And
one
I think
tablet
the
is like
ones
10
that-
maps, right?
Yeah,
It's like,
and I think the one that hands out reflected jewelry at you, that just like the ones you don't control, I feel like that should be on every second or third tile. We should be showered in them. We have no
Totally.
control. They're almost always going to be garbage, but there's a little bit of excitement for me every time I click on them because like it could be a really good one.
yeah.
And
I think-
we just came from recombinators and the harvest crafting that existed last league. How is handing me the random mirror jewelry going to be more powerful? Like it's still,
I mean-
it's just excitement.
GGG just kind of fucked up in the sense that we're going from Recombinators and Sentinel to no Recombinators, Harvest, Nerfed, and Lake. Right? It's like it doesn't feel good. It just feels really bad.
Feels
I get
terrible.
what they mean. Yeah.
And it's like they could times the loot drops themselves by 10 on the mirror thing.
Like
And
literally.
it might make me run them, but it still wouldn't make me excited. Whereas getting a bunch more reflected jewelry and having more access to the mist so that I could reflect my own jewelry, that would make me excited. Right? That's the bit that would make me excited. They need to buff the loot just to make it worth the time, but that's not going to make me excited. I want more of the jewelry. It's a cool idea. We just don't have nearly enough of it.
Also give us free 3 actions every single red map, I would say. Why is it 2 sometimes? I don't
Yeah,
even
why
know.
is it sometimes 2? That's real annoying.
I think one thing to consider with the rewards is that these lakes they take a lot of maps to set up. Like if you're
And
actually
then they also
building
take
like
time. Yeah.
if you're actually building a proper lake, it can take like 10 maps because it's like you get 3 each and you have like 16 tiles or whatever. But like often you have like more than 16 tiles. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do this, but like if I don't get any good like tiles, what I do is I use
Destroy?
like swaps. No, I don't destroy. I use I would swap
Yeah.
two to just
Yeah, to
basically
delay.
skip the turn,
Yeah.
delay.
Two
you
that
would
are right at
skip.
the beginning, irrelevant ones or whatever,
Exactly,
just to get another free reroll.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just
Yeah.
rerolls and stuff. And this is to set up my tiles, and then you run them, and it's I've spent 10 maps setting this up. So imagine 10 maps worth of
Sentinel reward.
Scourge or Sentinel,
That's
and
crazy.
then you go in there, and you just get 12 stacked decks and 5 chaos. It's bro, and you think about it, that's the only thing you get is stacked decks. I was running them last night with Grimro. We ran 30 together. If you think about it, 30 is 10 maps each. That's 300 maps collectively that we saved up to test it.
Yep.
And between us two, we didn't drop a divine, first of all, and all of our money just came from stacked decks. And it's what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sell the stacked decks, or are you gonna open them? Grimro's on the camp
Imagine
of
opening
them.
stack decks.
I mean, he's on the camp of selling them, and I'm on the camp of opening them because I like just playing the game, right? But it's ridiculous.
Also, remove the gem rewards from the high tier rewards.
But you could drop in line, sure, but you don't, right?
Yeah, no, you don't.
20%
Of course you
quality
don't.
garbage.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've noticed that happens is you go to 4, 5, 6 difficulty, and it's you're feeling the ramp. The rewards are getting better and better and better and better. And then you get to 7, and it just plateaus. And it's not you're getting you're not going from having 3 scarabs to 6 to 10 or whatever. It stays at 6 maybe, and it sometimes upgrades them to polished to whatever. And if you're at 14 difficulty and you find a scarab, you maybe get 7 or 8, and maybe one of them is winged. But it's it really tapers off the difficulty. Where
is that the same for?
Why?
Is that the same for all mechanics and all tiles, or is there some
Yes.
tiles that scale better with difficulty than others?
I think the strong boxes scale decently, right? Where they get better and better, and they let you reopen them or something. I don't know how exactly it works.
The strong boxes.
Haven't had it in a while. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's still first of all, an extremely rare tile, and secondly, it's you're just doing it for operatives, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably one of the better ones, to be fair. But I mean, aside for that, you know what's sad is probably the best strategy you can do right now is fish for Paradise to sell it, fish for Mist to sell it, or put Harbingers at the end so you can fish for Archnem mods. And so the league mechanic is I don't know, man. They need
It's
to do
really
something
far
about
off
it.
right now.
If we go into
Yeah.
maintenance mode now with the mechanic as it is, dude, you're
think-
really gonna do this to us?
I think as it is right now, even if you didn't take I don't know, however minutes to finish the lake, it would still be way less loot than Sentinel. So it's it's so
for
far
sure.
off. It's
It's
so.
not
You mean if you
close.
didn't have to run them, if you just got the loot after you completed your tablet, basically?
it would still be bad. So it's just really, really off right now.
Bro, if you could run an entire lake after every map, it would still be less loot.
Than just
Sentinel.
running the map. Yeah.
But Sentinel was extremely rewarding. Should Sentinel be the standard for a league? Can we
honestly-
still have leagues that are not insanely rewarding? Can we have leagues
my
that
God.
will be well received despite not shitting out rewards?
I mean,
Excuse
if
the
I don't know,
language,
yeah. But
This is, dude. I don't even think this is a hot take. I want leagues always to be OP and then get toned down.
Same.
Because
Yes.
you want
Me too.
people to run them, make them OP, make recombinators, right? Make stuff like that. You can always tone it down if you need to, but if you have people not engaging with your league mechanic, that's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I mean the
so
league
rather
during the
overshoot than
league.
undershoot.
Yeah, I totally agree with that idea, and I think Chris has said as much, or some GGG employee has said as much as they want the league mechanic to be the most lucrative thing that you can do during the league, and I agree with that. But I personally think that it's not that far off. That it's really close to being
No,
good,
it's
but
really
it really
far
hinges
off.
on
It
the.
is really far off. Yeah.
No, I think it really hinges on the jewelry being capped because it can't be influenced and it can't have a bunch of things because you get the mirror thing. If the potential outcome from the reflections was better,
I don't think so.
No.
I think
It's-
one legion is more loot
yeah.
than an entire lake.
It's
It's really rough.
consistently better to run tier 1 strands for essences than it is to run well-constructed lakes that were pre-constructed for you by other people for free.
Yeah.
That's the
If somebody-
disparity.
I think if somebody gave you like an inventory, if somebody gave it like an inventory of 60 lakes that are all like above average, I would still rather do my strat and just ignore them. Most likely, I would still probably make less money, like for free. If they gave it to me for free, I would just put it in my stash probably.
Yeah,
It's really sad.
Okay. Well, I haven't run enough of them clearly to be there, because I'm pretty sure if I had, then I'd be agreeing with the raw rewards, but I don't think I'd be agreeing with the reflection should be probably twice as likely, but I just still think that whenever Balor says you should get a random like mirror jewelry pick every 2 tiles, that would be too frequent. I don't know. Maybe I'm just outdated because in my head I'm comparing it with Incursion, right? And Incursion is like almost 3 years ago now, or probably even longer. So probably the standard for how rewarding a league should be, or just people feel it should be, has changed a lot since Incursion. But
Incursion,
the game also gets harder, right? The game gets harder, so if the leagues are not more rewarding, gotta keep up with it. It's one of the reasons why this league, felt a little bit rough at the start.
And Incursion added content that this league doesn't. Like, sure, you can mirror your thing, but like, it's not like I can consistently build that. Whereas in Incursion, I could consistently build corruption chambers.
Yeah, but you wouldn't get one every temple, and the temple would also take you, because you didn't get 3 incursions per map, but only 1. Would also take you like 11 or 12 maps. But I would also get loot
in my map as I'm running it too.
That's true. They did add a shit ton of loot to your maps.
Like you go to a table, you spend like 10 seconds, and then you move on. You got nothing out of it.
Yeah.
And then like what? You're gonna do the lake at the end? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just kind of cooked. But the mini, I want this to be good. I have so much fun doing the mini game. It's so much fun. It's just that I want it to be good. Please.
Yeah, please. Same. Like I'm really desperate. Every time I see the notes or whatever we're working on, and there's not like in red letters at the top, we're working on Lake. Like I just get depressed. I'll be honest.
The minute they buff it to where it's good, I make a lightning warper and I just do like table rush. I don't care.
Like, I want to run it. And like the thing is that Kat said, that's like not everything has to be extremely rewarding. It's like if it's not extremely rewarding, then it has to be good. Like Delve, for example. Delve was good. It was something that you wanted to do, and people were competing and having fun and doing like ladder stuff. They even though it was like the rewards were good, sure, but that wasn't why people were engaging with it in the first place. Like if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas like with Lake, there's nothing like that, right? Like Synthesis was like 100 times better than this mechanic, and it was like you could say that it's kind of similar. Building the web, it's nothing like it. I think Synthesis was like the pinnacle of like they tried to do something really good, and it was good, except it was like not really good at the start. So
no, it was only good like 2 months into the league, but that's a different topic. Or maybe we get the same with this one. Maybe it ends up being Synthesis 2.0. Because if they don't make it good during the league, when are they going to make it good? Is it going to go core and then it's going to be better?
It's gone already. Like, it's like, here's Kalandra. You've never seen her. She's like one of the most important NPCs in the game.
Yeah.
And we tied it to like literally the worst thing we've ever designed.
Also, why is the lake layout so clunky that you kind of have to semi-backtrack every tile? It kind of feels
Mineral
bad.
Pool.
Yeah, like literally the worst map in the game, Mineral Pools, is the league mechanic.
I don't know. It's very frustrating for like many builds as well.
Shield charge builds, dude, are destroyed. It's the worst.
I'm so mad that Kalandra is like represented this way. It's the most. I think it's the thing that's going to upset me the most 6 months from now. Of all of the changes, will be that like Kalandra came in and did fucking.
They need to retcon it. They need to retcon it. They need to have Zana come in and like there needs to be like a new endgame boss that is like super deceiving and stuff like that. And they actually cheated you into thinking that was Kalandra, but it wasn't the real Kalandra. They need to do like an Omega plot twist to save the lore of Kalandra or something like that.
Yeah. Like the most important character we've ever had in like 10 years of playing.
Just fucking bird, dude.
She's just some bird lady who spurts nonsense at you with 4 different voice lines, and none of them mean anything.
And how much do we still have left of that caliber, of that magnitude? Like, how many lore characters that they haven't brought in yet do they still have? How many of cards of this sort can they still play?
I mean,
not
it's
really
infinite,
many.
right? It's up to their creativity, and I think they're really creative.
No, it's not infinite. You don't have that many lore characters reaching that far back and having built up these years of anticipation. They've already we talked about this a little bit after we concluded the last podcast, I think, in the after talk. But they already did Daresso and Combe, they did Chevron, they did Maligaro, they did Duedri. They brought all of these characters that were previously only in like lore texts and item flavor texts and stuff like that, and brought them into the actual game, and they're all like a little bit disappointing. For me personally, the biggest disappointment before Kalandra was Chayula, because Chayula always seemed like a really interesting creature, almost like not a character, but like an all-seeing eye, like super ominous kind of being, extra dimensional possibly or something like that. And then it's just like this purple dude that cyclones around and fires chaos projectiles.
But like you could argue that like nobody could really see Maven coming, nobody could really see like Delirium coming. These are just sort of things that they made and that ended up being just wicked. I don't know.
True. I
like the Envoy was there for a league before Maven came, but it's like 2 leagues of Envoy, and then now we got Maven. It's like, I don't know, it's pretty cool. But it's not really about like the lore implications. It's just more about like thinking of cool shit that we will encounter. Like it's also like Expedition. The bosses in Expedition are insane. The bosses in Synthesis were insane, and there was no lore written for them. Like so. It's really up to their creativity to just come up with cool shit and just be like, just plug it in somewhere where it makes sense, and then we get to play through it, dude. Kill bosses, and like get good shit, get loot. Like that's the game, man. Like I don't care if it's like, oh, this is like the descendant of Maligara, dude. I just care that it looks cool. It fights like the fight's fun and having fun. That's my
I mean, in the end, that's what matters. But I still think it's a little bit different if they just out of nowhere give you like this super cool new fight with like an epic character and it all makes sense, versus giving you the same thing, but there's years of anticipation working up to that because one of the most famous items in the game actually used that name, right?
Yeah, sure. But do you guys? I don't remember exactly in 3.0, but I think Shaper was Shaper mentioned ever before 3.0? I don't remember.
That's a good question.
For example, because Shaper was epic as hell. Shaper was insane, right? I don't think it needs I don't think it needs years back. I think it just needs to be badass, and it's gonna be fine either way.
It needs to be tied into the lore. Like it's fine to have some sort of like cryptic stuff that's like, oh, that's Zana's dad. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's like it makes sense that she never talked about it. Like I don't know, it doesn't have to be like ingrained in like the lore for it to be good. I think
Zana's third cousin.
I mean, like that. Now that Zana's gone, it's like there's so much like impending. What the hell's going on there? So there's so much they could do. Like honestly, with that.
Think Zana's coming back?
Well, I think the whole reason for her to leave is so that they can do something with it later, right? Otherwise, why would she leave?
Yeah.
She could see the future, and she really liked juice mapping.
True. She misses.
She's like, why is she not in memories then?
She just left.
She misses Hast. I miss Hast.
Let me quickly track back to the Archnemesis before we went into the harvest and everything. I still wanted to say about Archnemesis that I pretty much like the idea, and I don't think like rare monsters should die with the white pack that surrounds them. It's kind of cool that you have these little moments in your map where a monster doesn't instantly die. And I already think, even though it's not in the perfect place right now, I think it's a vast improvement over the old system. Like the mods, although there's some that are annoying and some that are still like not really explanatory for the name, I think overall it's still better than the old system where we had like just so many rare spawning and not a huge pool of mods with different things that are like noticeably different, but most of them were just like auras that stacked up, and it pretty much during Ultimatum and Ritual like devolved into this like every big pack of monsters that you're fighting does have at least like one increased fizz and one hasted and one crit and whatever.
But then make it at least like step by step, right? Make it normal, magic, rare, and then boss, and don't make it normal, magic, like normal boss magic rare, right? It's goofy. It's like the boss.
Oh yeah, I
doesn't do
totally
anything.
agree with that, but I don't think it would go well with the players if like bosses took more than 20 seconds to kill. I don't.
I mean,
think
better
people
than
like
if every
that.
like rares take that long, right? Probably it would be. You can probably skip the boss if you wanted. Like back in the day, you used to skip bosses, right? If your build wasn't up for it, and it was still good loot.
Yeah.
I remember.
Is there now a way that you skip bosses? You need to do the bosses for
for
the
sure.
progression to Eaters and Exarch and
You
stuff
don't
like that.
You don't need to. No, you don't need to do it for Searing Exarch.
Oh no, you only
You get the
sure,
influence
you
out of
only
it.
One boss
Final
every
one,
like
yeah.
one
when the
boss
first
every, like,
altar
20
spawns.
maps.
But
Yeah.
they drop so much good shit. Like they drop off
No.
like maps and
That's what I
Yeah.
was saying, right? It's good that you get incentivized, but it's like, yeah, if they made it chunky, it would still be a thing. You could still skip it if you wanted to. Just make it chunkier and let it give more stuff.
Okay.
I think Archnemesis mods are like overall like not bad. As the problem with Archnemesis mods, like I like the idea of like fighting something and like it's like more of a thing, but I think the modifiers that they put on them is the issue where they have the potential to make them actually like fun fights, but like Ice Prison is not fun. Like there's like a lot of things that are just not fun. So
I think Ice Prison is fun. What's not fun about Ice Prison?
well, that it just gets in the way. Like I don't know. It's
Dude,
just
phasing, what do you
perverted.
mean?
Yeah, you're phasing
feel
and
like
you
Ice
have Flame
Prison-
Dash.
You
There's
know
so
what
many
I mean?
answers
It's
to
a
it.
mod.
I mean, sure.
What?
Do you know that like shield charge gets stuck on it even if you're phasing, for example?
No, I
I'm
didn't.
Does
sure
it?
that's like maybe a bug or whatever. But yeah, that's the thing.
You just charge through it.
No, you don't.
Oh,
get
you
stuck.
don't? Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. Okay.
Like
Well,
you
but
can walk through it.
that is a bug. Like
That's
it should work. Like
I don't know. Like I think the modifiers are like. I hate to say it, like I feel like even Diablo 3 had better mods. Like when I got an arcane on the ground and I think like, oh shit, I got a flame dash over this. It's like that's better than me like walking forward and then a wall appears. It's like
Okay, so I like actually took like a 3-day break right at the beginning of League and went and played Diablo 3 launch, and I noticed one big difference with their rare mods and our rare mods that I think is probably actually the biggest key problem behind it. When I fight a rare in D3, I feel like I'm fighting that rare mob with some additional modifiers that make it harder. When I fight an Archnemesis mob, I feel like I'm fighting whatever the Archnemesis modifiers are, and the base mob is irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's a really good
And
point.
that's-
How would you solve
That's-
that though?
I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to. Man, there's so many problems that I'm glad I don't
Make
have
the
to come
base
up with a
monster
solution
abilities.
for.
I don't think that's going to be solved within PoE 1. I think that's going to be solved with PoE 2 and with introducing new base monsters that just have more interesting differences and like feel essentially different. Because right now, like you said correctly, the monsters are merely a vessel for the Archnemesis modifiers, which are the really scary thing and the impactful thing about the monsters. And that dictates sort of how the fight goes. Because like, outside of the fact whether the monster is ranged or melee, it doesn't really matter what monster type it is. Sure, like some have bigger main hand attack damage and some, you know, a little bit more tanky and bigger hitbox and stuff like that. But they really don't feel all that different when fighting.
I'm just kind of scared of like Archnem mobs because I feel like GGG has a problem balancing them right now, and maybe it's too much for them. I don't know if they have like a skeleton crew because of PoE2 or something. I really don't know what's going on. But after 3.18 and now 3.19, I'm actually really scared for whatever they're doing with Archnem. It feels like they were. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like they were a lot more careful in the past with like changes like that. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna redo rares, which is basically half of the game, right? Almost everything has to do with rares. And on top of that, we're also changing loot completely, right? Completely revamping. And on top of that, we're also removing recoms, which is like one of the best crafting stuff ever. And we're also revamping harvest, which is one of the biggest craft. Like it feels like they were way slower with their changes and way more meticulous. And now they're just like throwing the kitchen sink or whatever you say, right?
That's true. I have one thing to say about the rare situation that we were like the rare point that we were talking about earlier in regards to like actually fighting a mob. I think it's completely fine to have maps, and for maps specifically not to matter what you're fighting and you're just blasting and having fun. And I think that content is what a lot of people want. A lot of people want to blast maps. They don't want to look at rare monsters. And I think that is completely and absolutely fucking fine. And I think GGG needs to let that happen. They shouldn't force it down everyone's throats. But as someone that has delved for more than 5,000 hours, I can tell you that when I was fighting a specific monster, I was fighting that specific monster. I was fighting a wolf. I was fighting a spider. So the problem there is not that the monsters themselves are unrecognizable, is that you don't have to recognize them or give a shit because the content that you're going up against is not content actually, like, it doesn't matter in that situation, right? In maps, it doesn't matter. But if you had scaling content like you do in Diablo 3, or like we used to have in Delve before they closed the mines, then you would be fighting that monster, and it would matter what you're fighting up against, and you would build up against the, like, you would build your character against certain things, right? To counteract those type of mob types, and you would learn about them. You would learn how much resistance they have, how much penetration they have. This is still just like useless information.
So you're
that's
basically
in my head, man. Like that I know, like, oh yeah, Spider has plus 70 cold resistance, like, and my cold res build is like gonna struggle against this, so I have to position it in a specific way where, like, or like I would know their wind up animations for specific attacks and stuff, so I know when to dodge, like stuff like that. And so like PoE just misses that scaling. It just misses the content where it's like opt-in content for more difficulty and more rewards.
You're basically saying that it's too easy to outscale the game, the base game.
Well, no, I think it should be easy to outscale the base game, but there should be an opt-in. There should be opt-in content where you can
actually
go
challenge your build.
Shit. Yeah, like for example, obvious one would be Greater Rifts, right? It's not like in Greater Rifts you do like high rifts and you're getting like 100 times more loot than if you were to do like 10 levels lower, right? And 10 levels lower, everyone can do it. But 10 levels above, you only you can do it, right? But like you're still doing it because it's fun and because it's like you're on the ladder, and it's the only reason to play the game, because it's like you're upgrading your character. And why else would you upgrade your character? It's to do harder shit. I don't know. And I feel like in those cases, like they got the scaling right at this point because they really did get the scaling right in Delve. It feels really good to be able to build a tanky character and push that character all the way to like 6k or whatever. So they got the monster scaling, HP to damage scaling right, but then they completely abandoned it, and then they never used that concept anywhere else.
So something I was thinking about, besides the Delph point, is what if they just give us back the one keystone that gives +1 rare mod, and they put it at the very start of the Atlas passive tree where everybody can immediately allocate it whenever they want. So basically, you have Archnem normal doing leveling, and then whenever you want, you can flick the switch with one Atlas passive point.
Counterpoint, there should be two right there.
Yeah.
Two? There should be one that says one more and one that says one less.
Yeah, that's the suggestion I wanted to bring up. Where did you get that? Did you come up with that yourself, or did you have someone in the chat?
Yeah, we talked about that a few times. Yep. But the less is a good idea as well. I don't know if the less...
No, maybe it's great because it's now tied to rewards. So when you get less, you also get fewer rewards. So it's like something.
But maybe some content would be too easy. I can't think about it right now, but maybe some content would be too easy then.
Yeah, but there would also be less rewarding.
So you make the less one, make it also less likely to get a touched mob at all.
So you can't get a touched
rewards out.
Yeah, fair enough. Right? That's a cool idea. But I think the keystone is obvious. The only thing I was thinking about is putting it right at the start of the Atlas passive tree, because the way it was before, it was kind of annoying, right? Sometimes, whenever you need to path to something, you kind of have to revolve everything around that. I think if it was at the start, like just a small key, not even a keystone, or like one of these notables right at the start, it would be totally fine.
By the way, such monsters always have 4 mods. They can appear on 4 mod.
So if you have -1, you wouldn't have any anyways. So.
Yeah. That makes sense. Similar. It would also be nice, like a nice parallel to the other 2 keystones that give you more monsters life and less monster damage, and the other way around. That would be a nice symmetry there if we had that for Archnemesis as well.
I also think all the blocking nodes shouldn't be where they are, like block harvest, block this, block that. I think they should just be attached to the literal start of the tree. I think there should be a little tree down the bottom that has the Archnemesis things that we're talking about right now, and all of the mechanics attached to it, so that I'm not forced to build a tree that goes places.
Yeah, I feel that
to do those things.
It could be like similar to D3, where you like choose certain things, right? You just like choose, okay, Master Alva. I prefer Alva, right? Archnem, I want +1 mod, stuff like that, like a menu maybe or something.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't like it feels bad when you actually have to path around it, right? You might want to go Expedition, which is on the one side, but you also want to go Alva. It's kind of weird.
I don't know about the league mechanic blocking things. I like that that's something that you work towards. And I mean, that's something that you get within your first like 30, 40 Atlas passes anyway, which is pretty much your first day of mapping, no matter
But
how
he's
fast
right,
you
like,
play.
but he's right. Like it kind of feels necessary to like path to both almost every time. Like, yeah, you almost have to. So if it's necessary, then it kind of prohibits you from. Yeah, it prohibits you from kind of doing what you want to do.
There's no decision that happens. It's just a no-brainer. You have to path there. And in that case, like, why have a tree at all if everyone?
In that case, you have minus whatever. Yeah, in that case, you have minus whatever points it takes, right? And that's basically it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still some sort of agency which one you path to first, and if you path there at all, if you path to something else first. But yeah, it would definitely be better. And specifically for the Archnem, seeing that is literally in every zone in the game, that should be in the very beginning. If they decide to bring something like that back, I'd really like that.
It would really excite me because like day one, I would literally take the +1 because I personally, as a player, like the hard fights, even though I don't think Archnemesis is in a good place and I don't think it's like has been great for the game. It's definitely getting way better. It's a lot better now than it was at the beginning of the league. They're gonna keep improving it, but like for right now, I still don't love it. But I personally like the stupidly hard fight. That makes me happy. So I would take +1 modifier, like as my first point, knowing that I'm gonna make my fights way more difficult than they need to be.
I think there's also like a weird psychological thing happening where if you get forced to do something, it's like nah. And if it's like this is my choice, you're like okay, yeah, I can, right?
Yeah,
it kind of feels like that for me. It also felt like that with the Keystone, kind of. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge factor. Like, absolutely. Like, if you get into a zone and you get demolished, then it sucks. But most of the time, it's a map that you rolled yourself, so you can always be like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have rolled this or that onto the zone.
Yep.
And in the same way, if it's your decision to make the Archnem mods harder, then it's probably also going to cause less of an upset with the players when they actually run into a brick wall or something like that. Yep. Fair point.
You also end up with like 3 entirely different difficulties of Archnemesis mods. Like just having the ability, because it becomes opt-in content. That's all it is, right? Like you remove one, you've gone, I want the game to be easier, and you add one, I want it to be harder. Like that's great. That really needs to be done. That's the more we talk about this, the more I want that exact thing. Give me a +1 and a -1, literally off the bottom of the tree. Everyone's first point could go into it.
I'm still thinking if the -1 would make stuff too easy. Like if there's certain if there's certain mechanics where the rare loot doesn't really matter, but making it too easy might be a problem.
Like Blight or something. But your Atlas passes
Blight, for example,
wouldn't affect blighted maps, right? The Atlas passes. They would only affect the blight mechanic in the map.
Oh yeah, in maps. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah.
No, that's a fair point to raise.
Though. And they still get touched mobs in Blight too, so
true.
Yeah. I mean, it matters in all situations, I think. Now that because this is literally now the game, so
I'm trying to think, but can't see any problems. They might have to adjust it. I don't know. How is it with one Archnemesis mod rares? They don't exist in maps, right? In maps, they have at least 2.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Tuna, I think I don't know if you misheard, but I was talking about the -1, right? The -1 Archnem. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But like that -1 would also mean that like you get a lot less from the loot explosion from Blights because you could technically get like touch mobs there too, and that's something that you like. If I was to do Blight, I would probably do it because it's like one of the mechanics that spawns the most monsters. And you have a high chance of getting touch rares in there as well.
I guess the
game
thought
has kind of devolved into this.
I guess the thought was like the average is you can get max 3, then you can get +1, then you have the 4, but the -1 would take it to like max 2. So that would be almost maybe too easy. That was kind of the thing, but whatever.
Yeah, but you get punished for it though.
You do kind of,
Yeah.
You do kind of.
Opportunity
Like
cost.
punished
I
pretty
guess.
heavily. Like most rewards right now are coming from Archnemesis. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you get a lot of
taking
flat
one
rewards,
mod away
right?
is
Well, it's a problem in situations where I understand completely what Pal's saying, where you get a lot of flat rewards. Like, for example, if you're just doing something, if you're just blasting altars and you don't care about the rares,
Yeah.
I guess you could say that, but like, you still have a chance to find a rare, I suppose. So in that situation, you're still kind of like opportunity cost type situation. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I just want the +1 because I want more juice for my Headhunter. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
Give us
I don't care
5
about the
mods.
-1.
Yeah, give us
like,
5 months later in the
uh,
league. Just give me, dude. Give me.
Just give me Beyond back, actually.
yeah, actually just that. Oh,
Beyond back, yeah.
on Beyond, by the way, I really feel like if they just made a little bit more rare monsters come out of the current Beyond,
Yeah.
and
No boss.
stopped it from disappearing when the boss exists.
Yep. Yeah.
Like,
You know what the boss?
I'm-
No.
You can make it one boss per map still. That's fine. You can be like, oh, you can only spawn one boss. Fine. On board.
Not
Let me
even.
continue with the Beyond afterwards, though.
Just give us a note on the tree that says you can't spawn a Beyond boss. That's like a huge downside, right? You don't get
I'd
any
take that.
currency.
Yeah.
Like I'd take that too. But I'd even take that in the current tree and just play around with Beyond because it still spawns a
Yeah.
lot of mobs and that.
I'll
that's fun.
I'll agree with that. That's a really smart move because it gives more player agency, and that also, because it's so attractive to make that happen, that would also give them the chance to significantly buff the drops that you get from the Beyond bosses.
Oh, yeah.
Because outside of the fact that Tainted Currency right now is in a pretty bad spot outside of the chromatics, it also feels like you're not getting a whole lot of them from the Scourge bosses.
So
not
two
at all.
things. I think if they buff Tainted Currency, that's huge, right? But why not just make it so the mobs don't stop after the boss? Just make
Yeah,
it so there's
that's what
only
I want.
one. Yeah, just to make it so there's one boss and then it doesn't stop. You don't have
That
to make
was
a keystone
Balor's
or anything for
suggestion,
it.
but I honestly
Yeah.
like Tuna's suggestion a little bit better of having it opt in via Beyond notes from the tree, that you can be like, you can't spawn a boss, and that means it also never ends because it only ends after you spawn the boss. So that you have the trade-off there, right? Same as with the Archnemesis mods. You get less of a nuisance with the Archnemesis mods, but you're locking yourself out of the potentially best rewards from Archnemesis. And the same way, you add more juice to your maps if you opt out of the bosses, but you're locking yourself out of like some of the best rewards that you can get from the Beyond/Scourge mechanic.
What if they could like reintroduce some of the Scourge items and make it like well-rolled items with like the good stuff, like I don't know, glancing blows body armor or some stuff like that, and it would actually be interesting loot. That would be maybe a thing, like it drops free items or something.
There's so much shit that they could have done with Beyond that they just didn't do right by either the Beyond mechanic or the Scourge mechanic. Like, why couldn't it also be like the more monsters you kill, the more bars you fill up, the more damage you take, the more quant you get? Just like in Scourge. Like,
yeah, you don't have to make it as crazy as Beyond, but just make it something. Yeah,
just make it something. Like right now, it's literally nothing. It's
Two
like
of
you
my
get-
favorite mechanics merged together into garbage.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels terrible. And I know it's like a beloved mechanic for like many people. It's not just us. Like, it's just like a softcore trade has always been about like
Beyond.
work hard, get your Headhunter, juice Beyonds.
I mean,
blast.
just the fact that every softcore player is always looking at like Zana map mods or Kirek map mods. The first thing is Beyond. All right, we have Beyond. Good league, right? That was always the case. That tells you everything you need to know about Beyond and how beloved it is.
Like, sure, it might be amongst like a small percentage of the player base, but I think this percentage matters a lot because we're the ones that are like, we're like addicted to this game, man. Like,
Literally degenerate no lives, a lot of us.
But I think we can kind of agree that it was a little bit maybe overtuned, right? Like, I think it would be
that's what
fine
I'm
if
saying.
Oh yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, but
that's also why we liked it so much, and
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say when you were like saying that that's what everyone looks for when the new list of mods on the map device comes out. Do we have Beyond? Do we have Beyond? The fact that that's the most important thing to everyone and like pretty much the only thing that matters in that regard kind of shows to me that maybe it was a little bit too strong,
It's
but
the
they
same.
did radically change it.
I think exactly the same about Harvest. It's like, wow, Harvest is not 90% of crafting anymore. It's now only 50% or 40% of crafting. It's like the fact that we kind of think that that's a bad thing when there's so much crafting in the game. It also told you that Harvest probably needed a a little bit of a mowdown. Also, we haven't really talked about Exalted Orbs, right? Like,
No,
Exalted Orbs are actually
I was
pretty
going to
huge.
bring that up next.
Yeah.
If we exhausted us on that topic. Do you have a strong take on the Exalt Divine swap?
All I can say is that if they make it so there's more divines dropping, I think it's a really good change. I love using Exalted Orbs, I'm not gonna lie. Absolutely love it.
I like it too. Yeah.
I think I'm on board. I just want... Basically, I think I just want divine shards.
Or divination cards.
Both.
And a few leagues for a few divine cards to show up. And then I think we're good.
I think there needs to be more ways to divine rares though. Because using a divine orb on a rare now, it's like...
I think that's what they want though.
I was pretty sure before the league started that divines as a use of currency would only be used to do like metamod stuff and divine uniques. And I was thinking that like Harvest was still going to have a relatively expensive cost of divine for my magic items and rare items rather. And then that didn't happen. And I was a little bit surprised.
I think if they would make other ways to divine, it would kind of defeat the purpose. It would be like Leo and Exalts, right? It's like, why would you ever use an Exalted Orb kind of deal? Even on uniques, right? It's like, I don't know. I think I like what they're trying to do with that. Like, Exalted Orbs actually give us a lot. There's a lot more considerations in crafting, where before it was like completely out there to do a 1 in 50 slam, right? You're like, I don't know, you're crafting, for example, we crafted like a Colossal Tower Shield, right, for shield charge. And it's like, it's completely out there to exalt a slam and hope for a T1 flat armor, right? But now it's not, because it costs like 12 chaos. I might as well try, right? And if it works, it's crazy. But if it doesn't work, who cares? Like, back to the drawing board. So also nobody wants to buy Leos, right? Like, who the hell wants to go on TFT and buy Leos? So it's so nice to just have like 100 stack of Exalts and just spam. There's even cases where, funnily enough, meta crafting is not the best anymore. It's actually block a mod and double slam. I'm not even joking, right? It's like, it's weird because it's so cheap. We're not accustomed to this. So there's so much to be still explored with Exalted Orbs, I feel like.
No, for sure. Even beast crafting, like earlier in the day, I was thinking to myself, should I prefix the suffix? And I just thought, I'll just slam it. If I hit a prefix, it doesn't matter. I'll just like keep slamming.
I'll agree with that. What I really like about the change is that pretty much before, almost no one used Exalts for their primary function in the game. It was just completely out of the window. A, because they were way too expensive, and B, because we had better options from other mechanics. But I think that they overshot it in the sense that now we have the same situation with divines. Like, no one's going to use a divine for their primary purpose.
Not true. People are still using divines on their
People are
rolls.
using divines?
People are using divines because there's no other alternative. What they fucked up with Exalted Orb is they gave us Beast Exalted Orbs, they gave us Leo, they gave us so many better ways to do it. But this time they removed all of the divine, which I actually agree with, and now divines still have a use case, but they do what Exalted Orb. And on top of that, Exalted Orbs being good for crafting takes away a little bit of power also for meta crafting. You now have other ways to craft items. So in a sense, I actually think they kind of succeeded there. I know that Leo slams are not a thing anymore. That's what I'm saying.
That's correct.
Doesn't matter.
Like, you're not gonna drop in ashes and then be like, well, it got shit rolls. That's the amulet I'm gonna wear now, and just put it on, right? Like, you're gonna spend divines on that.
Yeah, not really. You're gonna sell it and then you're gonna buy a well-divined one, because the odds of you divining one is like way more expensive than how much people are charging for a perfect roll. That's kind of
wasn't that always the case?
I divined my shield, like it was like 2.7k armor or something. I divined it 3 times and now it's 3k. It's like, all right, the shield, like if I recrafted a shield, it would have cost me way more. So
how much is the divine currently in softcore trade, for context?
170
C.
Yeah.
They're expensive as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially in the case of like a multi-prefix where the prefixes scale into each other, like with weapons or with like armor shield.
Yeah,
in that case, the gain is so huge between a low bottom roll and a high roll.
Yeah.
But what you don't realize is we went from like divine lucky to this.
Yeah, for sure. No, like I think it's. I don't know, is it like that important for the game that we now have, I don't know, 76 life instead of 70 life.
It wasn't really
79
about
life.
that. It was more
It's
like imagine like you need a specific attribute requirement or something like that. Like now, or like you're rolling for a specific item. It's now more worth in many situations to that if you get the 2 mods that you were looking for with an essence, to just like if it's not a good roll, to just keep spamming essences until you get the good roll instead. That's like weird, man. It's creating some.
Is
like,
that so much
weird-
utility though? Is that big of a deal that it's gone? Is it? I don't know. Maybe.
I think like I think it's a bit odd. I mean, I actually even agreed with you in many situations that like it's nice to have this, but at the same time, it's like as a player, it feels like shit.
I think it's
It
just
often
something we'll
feels
get
not
used
good.
to. Don't you think so? We just get used
I
to
feel
it.
like every change you possibly make will be positive and negative in some way, right?
Yeah.
And like that is the negatives of these changes, but I think overall the positives outweigh. I think it's just better like this. I thought it was going to be real weird. I thought I wasn't going to like it, but I think that part I do like now. It's just taken me a little while to get used to.
Yeah.
I really
The
like.
bit that annoys me the most is I can't say easy X anymore whenever I drop an X because it's just not important.
Dude, I was
But it was so
trading.
easy.
I was trading 10 exalts for 130C, and it felt so wrong. I was like, should I apologize? like,
Should
really
I
weird.
apologize? Yeah, no, it feels weird, but we'll get used to it.
I really like the rolls of of uniques having more weight now though, or also of rares, obviously.
Yeah.
But
if you find a
when unique
Brassstone with
drops-
+5,
Yeah.
What if you're
No, I
this
had
is and
one.
you find a Brassstone with +1, and you
So you
spend
got
9
something to use
divines
your
and you still got
divines.
+1?
just gotta farm those divine shards, dude.
Gotta log out. That's what you gotta do.
Run some villa. Easy.
Do you think the divine vessel recipe is fine in that context?
No.
That needs
Holy
that
shit.
needs to be revisited, right?
I mean, I
that-
never used
because
the recipe. I always farmed for them, but yeah, it's
I
silly.
use the recipe in SSF for sure. Like if I have the option between like the choice between not getting my Pantheons or like spending a divine, which I was not going to use anyway in like the long run. Anytime
Honestly,
soon.
I can see that for you, especially as a hardcore player. 100% absolutely agree. But I know players that go level 100 and they're like, oh, I forgot to spec my Pantheons.
Oh, I still have those 2 passive points in Act 2. What the hell?
Oh no,
I'm
that's
quite
like,
often in the 90s, and I assign Pantheons when someone in chat goes, "What are your Pantheons for this build?" And I go, "Oh fuck."
I really love
Right, my
Pantheons
bad.
'cause, like when I was, if you POB enough your defenses and you actually tick the boxes that the Pantheons would, like it's like insane, yeah, what they give you. They give you like 4 to 5 level of defenses. Some of them, like if you go like Tugohama, what is it? What is the Pantheon I'm thinking of? Yeah, Tugohama with Lunaris. It's like holy shit. That's like 4 to 5 level of
I always think that
defense.
when people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna fix freeze with Soul of the Brine King, I'm always thinking like, dude, you're missing out on so much on the other big ones. It's like just get freeze on boots and get one of the good ones. What the hell?
Well, but it's such a nice band-aid fix. Like when you're in Act
It
6,
is,
you kill the
yeah,
Brine
it
King, you
is.
click it, and then you don't think about it for such a long time. Also, like it was really bad back in the day getting chain stunned, and now just having that band-aid
Fair.
fix, Brine King can only be stunned once every 2 seconds, and then eventually you get some other way to deal with it. Like you get high enough life that you barely ever get stunned. You get like a high amount of stun block recovery, or you get stun immunity via. There's different ways to deal with it, right? You can get
The
it
mid
from
stun's a lot
jewel
worse this league, by the way.
implicits.
In case you didn't notice,
What's the word?
Bone Breaker is
Sorry,
much more
stats.
common.
The what?
The mid stun's much more common this league. Bone Breaker is like 10 times more common, and
Mm.
it's just like, yeah, I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, I noticed.
Yeah.
I took
yeah.
unwavering stance, which I normally don't do, because I got annoyed.
Yep. The stuns are pretty bad. But I mean, like, you can obviously circumvent that by getting, like, boot enchant, but yeah, it's pretty bad.
Man, Trickster start was so smooth. Like level 33 cannot be frozen, 8% faster. Oh my god, it was so nice. No more slows.
Yeah, I was arguing with people that like that's the first thing you take, and everyone was like, "You crazy."
Dude,
You
everybody
wouldn't
was
take that
saying-
first. Like, what?
Everybody was saying a Trickster has no power spikes while leveling, and I was like, what?
Dude,
are you-
it's so yeah.
What's wrong with you?
But
What do you
that's
mean?
Tailwind.
It literally
It's
gets
like,
tailwind
yeah.
and action speed cannot be modified.
then
you get
polymorph.
polymath. Like
Yeah,
holy
polymath.
shit,
Yeah. It's like, what do you mean no power spikes? Are you okay?
people, and then they'd go like, yeah, but it has no damage. It's like, what?
Like, what do you
8
mean?
action speed and like 30 more damage is not more
Yeah.
damage. Like, huh? Yeah.
You
I had
do
a
need
lot
to
of
get all the
arguments already.
masteries for the damage, though. It's not
Ah,
something
sure.
for early.
Yeah, but
But it's
by the
still
time you
like
get to
go along.
Cruel Lab,
It's
you've
like
still got
15%
4 or
more
5 already.
damage. Yeah, you have like 15% more damage, and like 5 life on kill doing and mana on kill also
Yeah.
doing leveling is insane.
Nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's something I will say. I don't know. Tuna, what did you start? Did you start Ranger, right?
Yeah, I started
Dude.
Pathfinder.
The totems on Trickster, 8% life on kill. It's like out there. Like it's absolutely.
For sure.
You can't even. I unticked. I respect out of Ghost Shrouds because I was always topped up. Like I didn't need it. It was like unnecessary. I was like
Makes sense.
going to take the 3-pointer, but it just doesn't matter because you get like 8% ES on kill.
8% is crazy, yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I just rushed the death rush for me, so I was getting like a ton of life on kill already. And
Yeah.
to be fair, like I was also using claw, right? So when I started claw, it's like yeah.
Yeah,
you
fair
have
enough.
No
yeah.
You have no problems as a claw user.
Just in general for a ballista build, it's crazy because you don't really
Yeah.
get sustained. You're like double life flask Andy, but with Trickster, it's so nice.
But it only works on poison, so
Yeah, it works on poison, and yeah, I guess
it has
only
to be a
poison for
DOT,
yeah,
or like ignite or something. So
Yeah.
that's the downside of it, right? You still don't get
for
on kill
sure.
effect.
It also works for EA theoretically, but you can't really
Yeah.
go Trickster.
Yeah, no. Any ignite. Honestly, like I think that's a good thing. Which is like Elementalist is so good, and I think it's great
Yeah.
to have like things like Shaper of Flame in the game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like the best. I think the best design Ascendancy in the game currently.
Yeah, it's really spicy.
I really like Deadeye.
I don't like it. I think they ruined it with the rework.
Dude, make the
Yeah.
Mirage Archer node good, and I'm in. Holy! I was so
Yeah.
hyped when that came out. I was like, "Holy, give me 3
Well,
Mirage
Old
Archers."
Rupture was fun. Like I give like multi
Yeah.
and stuff, like with a conditional, and then Ricochet give you 10% more damage per chain. Like, ah,
I don't even get Rupture. I always want to do a Rupture POB, and then it's like, okay, so I take Rupture, and now all the other nodes are kind of bad for bleed, and I'm
it's
just like,
terrible.
what the hell? What am I supposed to do here? I don't get it.
Yeah, and since they removed dodge, so is the damage reduction. I forget what it's called. Windward.
Oh yeah,
Windward
Yeah,
makes absolutely no sense. Like
Yeah.
you take it on some builds because there's nothing else to take. That's how bad the Ascendancy is. It's kind of like
yeah.
gone to the point where it's almost like Pathfinder level of like, oh, I'm just gonna take this because why not?
That's my favorite. I can't.
I mean,
get
like
over.
it's still really good. Like, don't get me wrong. It's like because you are going for far shot, ricochet, and endless munitions, right? Which are the only 3 nodes that are actually good. I mean, actually tailwind as well. So you gotta have
The
a choice
Mark
between
one is
ricochet or
insane.
actually, yeah, the Mark one is
Mark
pretty
1 is
damn
really really good. Yeah.
But what if you're playing something that doesn't necessarily get much use out of the marks?
Yeah, it's like the
There's a
dot
mark
builds,
for
but that's
everyone
only
now.
dot builds, right? That's only dot builds. If you're, yeah. And yeah, dot builds make no sense. That's also why when they released the new mark, I was like, I think Chris was like saying, you can scale the mark effect. And I was like thinking, not really. It's like, what are you going to go, Deadeye? I don't know.
Or bottom
And it doesn't even work for bleed. It doesn't even work for bleed. So on top of that, you can't even go Rupture and that node on Deadeye. So it's only for poison and ignite, and nobody ever would go Deadeye with
Yeah.
poison or ignite. So it just was really
Nobody
weird.
would ever go that mark anyways in the first place.
It's
'cause
so
it sucks.
bad.
Well, marks are
Oh,
curses. You
so
can get
terrible.
increased effective curses elsewhere to scale the mark if that's what
Did-
you wanted. I'm not saying
But
it's
who-
a good mark. I'm not saying it's a good mark that they introduced. I'm just saying there are ways to scale your mark outside of Deadeye.
Who at GGG doesn't understand poison? Who's always doing these like one-hit poison builds that they kind of trying to fit in with like the mastery and then like the mark? Do they understand? It's like such a disparity from ignite to poison. You would have to make like a face breaker level item to make one-hit poison a thing. Not
The whole
like
point of poisons is stacking. That's
Yeah.
what makes poisons good.
they can make like a face
example
breaker
they
item.
used was Flame Blast that had been converted to chaos to do poison.
Oh my
And
god!
I'm like,
please no.
But if you
And I'm
just
like,
don't
go
convert
Ignite!
and you do Ignite, it's so
Yeah.
much better.
Oh
like, what
my
do you
God.
mean?
I think this is the case of like what they've said in the past. It's like, oh, we design things because eventually maybe there's one situation where
Maybe.
the stars align and things end up fitting together and it makes something crazy. But it's like, come on, man.
They could have
for the
reworked.
present- I feel like that design philosophy kind of sucks because then it's like
Yeah.
we're excited about new shit, we get it. It's like a pile of dog shit for the current meta, like, or it's like what, it doesn't make any sense.
No. I feel like if they wanted it to be good for Ignite, they would have had to redesign Flame Surge as well. So it just doesn't make any sense.
But I think it's okay for Ignite because you can automate it, right? Like I think that's fine.
Mark on hit, you mean?
Yeah, like
Or-
I think the fact that you can automate it makes it pretty good. Especially since like new
But-
rares are quite tanky and like
But flammability is so
Surge.
huge, right? What are you gonna do?
You'd have to
And
go for
Despair.
Purple Curse, obviously.
Which is
you'd have
also
to go for
investment,
Purple
right? So
Curse.
it's like,
Yeah. But
yeah.
I feel like
I guess.
it's fine. Like quality of life for investment is always the thing that I choose to go for personally.
I don't know. It's also
Um,
30% less effect with the quality, probably like 20% less effect. So it's also even worse than Flame Surge, right? And on top of that, you need to use the gems, right? It's like weird. It doesn't feel
Yeah,
like if they buffed it a little bit, I would agree, but it doesn't make any sense with the current numbers. I feel like.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Any other
Yeah, I
takes
mean, I
on the
don't
new
think it's good.
skills now that we're already opening that box? Have you played
I haven't
the
tried them
lightning
out.
conduit?
I haven't tried them out. I can't say anything. They look semi clunky, but actually a lot better than I thought they would be. But they buffed it pretty well. Like when they first came out, I was like, "This is over," and everybody was like hyped. And I was like comparing the numbers to Crackling Lands, and it was like 15% better than Crackling Lands or something. And everybody was like hyped about it. This is insane. You just have to shock the enemy. It's crazy, dude. And then they buffed it, and now it's I think actually in a good place, right?
It looks surprisingly better than I thought it was going to,
Mhm.
but haven't touched it yet. So
I used it for leveling. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all. I think it has its issues, obviously, but it's something that now would let me consider. Oh, I can league start Stormbrand and have Lightning Conduit to carry my single
True.
target,
True.
which is like something that I would consider, and I think that's really cool.
Yep.
But I would never play it as like I'm playing a Lightning Conduit build, and every pack I'm clicking two things because like overall I think with the amount of hours I play, it's just not viable.
Dude, the
Like,
times. Yeah, sorry.
Like it makes sense like if it's more of like a flask piano thing, but having to like not only like target a monster and then target it again, I think that gets really tiring. Like targeting and two buttons is really tiring in my opinion.
Yeah,
in this game.
for sure.
But the skill is strong, and I hope they don't nerf it, because if they don't nerf it, then next league I'll consider playing Stormbrand Lightning Conduit as a league start.
Dude, if you can league start Stormbrand, it's so comfy. It's like one of
Yep.
the most comfy skills ever.
Because like,
I wish it
doesn't
was
matter
still
if it doesn't have
3.14.
insane damage, right? You just have a button there that you can just like, while your Stormbrand's zapping away, you just bum bum bum, and like
Yeah, you have an excuse to run Stormbrand because it can still clear packs, right?
for sure.
Is it so bad on single target now? I thought
Oh
Stormbrand
yeah,
was
really
in a
bad.
fine.
I mean, the
okay
numbers are
spot.
crazy bad.
It's awful,
Okay.
yeah.
They're insanely bad.
They absolutely dumpster the skill. And not only that, they also like took away all of its quality of life as well. To be honest,
The mediums are so much worse as well. It's crazy.
mediums are worse. They took away its duration. Like they ruined Swiftbrand. Yeah. I don't
Oh
know.
my god,
I
yeah,
don't
Swift
even run
brand.
Swift brand. It's horrible.
Yeah, running Swiftbrand
know-
basically makes it like it's like playing Arc almost.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like anti QL. It's literally gone in like a little bit.
The worst part is it's like technically the best damage support too. Like if you want the most amount of damage, you really have to
Yep.
put in Swift brand.
Yeah, I mean,
But it
POB
makes the
damage,
skill
yeah.
feels so bad.
The POB damage, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a question from chat, which I thought was interesting, even though it's not a huge question. It's probably something that you've already talked about at some point in the past. But the meta of Determination Grace Defiance banner, do you think it's actually as bad as it's being perceived? Because some people would go and say you can't really make a build that is survivable in endgame content without using at least 2 out of those 3.
I think honestly
true.
I think they fixed it with Fizzaz. Like I'm running Cloak of Flame right now. I'm feeling fucking crazy. Cloak of Flame, Taste of Hate. I think you don't have to run D-Term on the right side of the tree anymore, honestly. Gonna be honest.
Yeah, if you have evasion and taken as, you're feeling good
Yeah.
for sure.
I think they really fixed it.
Right? There's gonna be some
Yeah,
times
for
where it's
sure.
like, oh shit.
I mean, if you hardcore, you just have more tools to play with, right? You're gonna get it all. But yeah, for softcore, I really like the Taken as. Lightning Coil is also so underrated right now. Holy fuck,
Busted,
50%. It's so crazy. And it's also unique. So if you're a spellcaster, you can get like a +4 or +3, right? It's insane.
That is
And you
crazy.
can link it with your Tainted Fusings too. Cool.
I actually did that. It wasn't as bad as it looked like in the. Maybe I just got lucky, but it wasn't as bad as it looked like in the YouTube videos. I don't know. But they're gonna buff it, right? They already said it.
Surely they'll buff it.
Sure. No, they said it. Literally said
no,
it.
it's actually on the list of things
it's on the
buffing
list.
Tainted Currencies.
It's on the list, guys.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
No copium needed.
I mean, yeah, they're gonna buff it. I hope it's a good buff, at least to the point where it's like worth using them. But like, I would almost rather use 1,500 fusings and Valorbs than go through that.
The new meta is you do. I think it's not 1 in 10. I'm gonna be honest from what I've seen. It's not 1 in 10 for the Tainted Orb fusing. I think the meta now is do a 5 link for 150, and on average you're gonna get like the result you want. It's less RNG.
But it keeps going down, and you have to spam 150, right? If it goes down.
Yeah. So what you do is on you go to 5, and if it fails at 5, you can still try at 4 because it's pretty cheap, and then you can try to go back to 5. But then if it goes to 3, you recraft to 5. That's basically I think the play right now.
That sounds like a really good recipe for me to fail that 28 times in a row. And
It's
then
content,
just be real
though.
upset.
It's content. Imagine just clicking the button with 1,500. That's zero content.
Yeah. Just make a YouTube video about how to fail it 28 times in a row. People are going to celebrate you.
I mean, as long as you say something negative about the league, people will celebrate you this league.
Yeah.
It's true. They'll also heavily misrepresent what you say.
True.
In other YouTube videos from people you've never heard of before. It's happened several times this week.
Yeah, or people who make the same video about the league mechanic, about the league being bad 5 times in a row, right? Stuff like that.
Or all of Reddit using snaps examples as to why they're struggling to get alchemy orbs when it's like, bro,
has no like bearing on their experience.
Like that does not apply to you, bud.
So crazy.
Like, what the fuck?
And you know what the worst thing is? The people who are complaining right now are all not playing. It really shows. They're not playing.
True.
They already quit, right? So it's like you're getting your. I don't know. There's a lot of people who I feel like just can't have fun if not everybody has fun. So they get really dragged down with like Reddit and the whole hive mind.
So I stand by all of the negative things that I've said. I still think they've removed a large chunk of my fun, by the way. Like I do. I literally think I've removed a large chunk of my fun.
They did.
I'm probably having at best half the amount of fun that I've had in any league previously because of these changes. But I still came back to PoE. Turns out half of PoE's fun is still more fun than most other games.
In every other game.
And that's not even like a point. It's not just that, right? It's like the complaints always start off as reasonable on Reddit. Like it day 1 complaints, they do 2 complaints, day 3 complaints, and then it always gets emotional and like, I don't know, fucking my life is destroyed and here is number 70 harvest where I got no returns. It's like, I don't know, it just gets petty at some point, and then it just devolves into hyperbole, and then we can't even talk about the most basic things anymore, which is really annoying.
Personal attacks against
crystals.
To be fair, though, there is a lot of reasonable feedback and a lot of reasonable criticism also on the Reddit, not just elsewhere, right?
I just said that, it always. I just said that it devolves over time. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, no, I mean, like even at this point, if you go onto the Reddit and you search for criticism, you'll find more reasonable stuff than unreasonable. But I do totally agree with you that the especially the people who are like, oh well, gotta find a new game, I guess. It's over, guys. They're ruining the game. And it's like
they're not playing the game. They're not playing the game. Yeah.
Yeah. That sort of stuff is always like completely flabbergasting to me because obviously they're not ruining the game, and even if the game is like sort of in a bad state in certain areas in this league, it's going to be better in next league. It's always been that way, and I don't know. GGG doesn't want to make a bad game, right?
No, it feels so weird. Sorry, real quick. It feels so weird as a content creator as well, because it's kind of like you're riding the wave at the start where nobody likes the league. Everybody's like criticizing it, right? And at some point, you feel like everybody's like going further and further and further, and you're just like, okay, I don't hate it that much. Can we chill out? And then they're like, shill. He's a shill. Why do you want to kiss GGG? Right? It's like, it just feels so weird. You have to go all extreme.
That is exactly what's happened as well. Like at the beginning,
fucking
I was like,
annoying.
At the beginning, I still think this, for my style of player, PoE is currently in the worst state it's been that I can ever remember. And that still makes it better than most other games, because that's how far in front it was to begin with.
Yeah.
But I made all those comments on like day 3 of the league, and I still agree with them. And since then, it's gotten worse and worse and worse, and more gross to read and more gross to read. And now like my opinions are getting like twisted into this thing that's way more extreme than what I was saying. And I'm like, I'm still playing the game. Like, I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
But it's still PoE. Like, calm down.
I
Yeah.
kind of want to, I think, discuss a little bit the fact that overall, I think now, if you're an average player and play maps like you used to, you chisel Yalk and you go. There's now like
probably a little better.
It's a lot better than what it used to be in previous leagues in terms, because there was never really a time in those situations where you chisel Alk and you go, you do an alpha and you get paid. That never happens. That never happens. Like Exalted orbs were very rare, just as rare as they are now. But now there's actually the potential to find a monster that literally guarantees them to drop. Meaning, on top of the Exalted orbs that like you would have gotten already, you have a potential of getting more, right?
Yeah.
And overall, I feel like that's like more exciting for people, outside of the fact that there's this whole thing about like FOMO and calling and stuff. But that's a whole other thing.
You know what I think is the most problem for like people like that you just called out, and why it's actually not that much better for them, is because they don't have all the gumball currency. Like if we need chisels, we buy like 1,000. If we need alks, we just buy like 200. But that is not. They're not dropping as much anymore, I feel like. And
that's the problem with the league mechanic, right? And that early on it was tough. But
even if you don't interact with the league mechanic, I don't feel like it should be something that's like super sought after. That's just something to play the game, right? Something to for high tier players to hide, right? Like I'm not showing elks or like chisels or something.
Definitely.
And for people who need gumball currency, it should be there, right? So I think I think they kind of messed up with that. I think they could have toned down a lot of things, but not the gumball currency. But
again, like I feel like the league mechanic is always historically given all the gumball for people to progress into high tiers, and then when you get to high tiers, you click an altar that says basic currencies, and bro, like now I'm sitting on like, I'm like hiding them, and I still have like 15,000 of everything I need. You know, it's not a problem, because altars will definitely like change everything in regards to that. But the thing that sort of like annoys me now is, I often see these remarks. It's like I kill a mob and people go, "Where's the loot?" It's like, do you just expect everything to now like? It's like
they're hyper focused.
It's like you kill a boss. It's like, oh, where's the loot? It's like, bro, like what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is a boss supposed to drop me? Like a Headhunter, or like every time I kill one, like
I'd like that.
Yeah, I mean, like you press alt, you press alt, and there's like a shit ton of loot because I'm like hiding 90% of things already at this point in the league. But it's just so like people will like will just literally sit there and wait for like something not to drop loot and just like, you know, like
especially with something like chisels though. I've seen someone comment somewhere where they were like, well, I'm in tier 16 maps and I've done some pinnacle bosses and I'm still not sustaining chisels. Is this supposed to be like that? And I'm like, I mean, you're probably sustaining chisels, right? You're probably over-sustaining them if you're picking them up. But B, also, are chisels something that you should be sustaining? should chisels be something that without using your brain, you just put them on every map? Because if that's the case, then you could just straight up delete them from the game
I think,
and
yeah,
have
I
every
think they should
map
delete
like
them.
inherently have 20% quality because there's no difference, right? And so I think that the design for consumables like that needs to be in that space where it's still a sort of decision, which map do I apply it to, right? And I don't know whether you should ever reach the point where that's not a decision that you have to make. Outside of
It
trading,
matters.
obviously.
I think it matters early league, and that's the only thing that should matter. Because early league, it's like all of these. There should be scarcity, and you should feel like you just came off of Twilight Strand. And
Yeah.
once you progress into altars, like at that point, I don't think it should matter. I don't think it should matter at all. And at that point, yeah, I would rather have like a one button click that 20 qualities on my maps. You know, I think that's completely fine to be able to progress past certain hurdles and to now have new hurdles where it's like at the beginning you were stressing over chisels, but now you're stressing over needing a 30 exalt or 30 divine upgrade, you know, or like a specific corruption or a specific attribute that will get you over the edge to drop that to drop the passive skill that you're investing into strength, you know. It's like
So you're
there's
saying-
always something you have to overcome, except it's about like creating sort of like challenges as you progress, right? There always has to be a challenge, and as soon as you get to the point where you're not challenged anymore as a player, that's when you stop
It's just
playing.
annoying. Yeah, at that point it's just annoying, and you want to focus on other stuff. Yeah, I agree.
I think it's fine to be able to graduate past like needing chisels or alchemy orbs, because you'll always have a new thing to worry about.
Yeah, what if, like, for example, if you're in a tier 14 to tier 16 map, all your maps automatically drop with 20 qual, for example?
I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, even if it was only some of them, we drop so many maps now that like you'd probably like filter out the ones that don't drop with 20 quality. But I mean, to be fair, it's like they sell for a lot of currency, so you'd still probably sell them.
No.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stash now, and I haven't bought chisels once this league. I have 1,773, and I chisel everything.
Yep.
So
I
even
had hidden
stayed
them on day 2, so I only have 240, but I still haven't bought any, and I chisel everything.
And I have the same alchemy
just
ones.
picking
I
up
have
stacks.
1,700.
The stacks, yeah.
Yeah, I had like exactly 5+ stacks. I only pick up those as well.
Yep.
I remember last league I was playing softcore trade and I bought myself 500 chisels at some point before I started sustaining them. And then all of a sudden I started sustaining them and the stack just grew and it's like 600, 700, 800 until I took them off the filter and then they slowly went down again. But
You get the T14s, you click the basic currency shrine, and you're sorted. You know,
Mhm.
that's all it takes to sustain Gumball, because that's all it drops. It doesn't drop high tier currency. But yeah, it drops chisels, like it drops sextants, and I think that's good. I think that's really good to be able to get the T14s, and you're kind of like now able to invest into these things that actually substantially increase the difficulty of your maps, because they really do. You know, I'll often have an issue where like I die and I'm like, holy shit, and then I look at my res and it's 20. You know, because like
Yep.
because I didn't really like read the downsides. You know. Because all I
read
see
the
is like
alters.
the upside. Right? All I see is it's gonna give me Ickers, and that's what I want. But
Pickers, duplicate, press the button.
yeah, exactly, dopamine.
Yep.
But basically, I think it's essentially it's a good thing to be able to graduate past needing certain mundane things that you need early, right?
yeah, in a sense, I'll agree with that. In a sense, I like that there's a different set of challenges and puzzles to solve, like for every stage of the game. I guess I just don't like that inherent expectation that you should anywhere in the first 2 weeks of the game, like at any point, like get to the point where you sustain those things. Like I'd rather have chisels be something like special that you can apply every couple of maps and then bring up the baseline of maps to the right. Like I don't know.
So one small thing about that is that where most of us are by the end of the first week is 2 weeks in for like a lot of players.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Right?
I'm just
Like-
saying, like, do you enjoy the basic like having to apply 4 chisels to every white map before you put it
No.
in? And it's not a decision that you make. It's not like an interesting and engaging mechanic in the game. It's just like a no-brainer. You just put it on because you have it. So
But
I'd
early
much-
I do. Like when I first dropped my first red map and I got like 6 chisels, I'm like, oh shit, okay. put my chisels on, get my red map, like Alkit, maybe Valet.
Yeah,
that's
I'm just
the
saying
I
that's
think,
the smallest portion
think
of the 3
just
month league.
having that gameplay for the first day or two is worth having the item, technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because
for a lot
the
of
first few
people-
days is so important, and it's the
Yeah, and
best
it's-
days.
It's also like the first week or two for a lot of casual
Yeah,
players,
yeah.
right?
Obviously,
So
like my progression
yeah.
is accelerated. So
Yeah. Let's say for the first 30 hours or whatever, right? Like whatever that means for people. Yeah.
like slash blade, yeah.
Okay, I just have to quit. I normally don't answer too many things from chat, but like that's an interesting one. Sounds like CatmasterOP is gonna like PoE 2 and where PoE 1 is heading. So first, I don't think PoE 1 is heading to PoE 2. I don't think, for the most part, I don't think they're going to merge it in. There's still gonna be a big reset with PoE 2 coming out. I think that's like something that too many people are worried about. Like there's this huge misconception that PoE 2 is gonna be significantly slower than PoE 1. And spoiler, it's probably a little bit slower because they don't want to have the extremes, but it's not as bad as people think because what we've been shown from PoE 2 is act footage. The equivalent of what is Act 1 through 3 now. Because we're going to have 7 acts in PoE 2 and we've only seen the first 2 acts so far.
Like imagine that lightning spear with like chain and impulsas or some explodey, right? You're just like, you're blasting either way. It's like, doesn't matter.
Also, I don't know if everyone else feels this way, and this might be one of those comments that's like, Baylor elitist. I don't actually really care how fast I'm going as an individual player. It's always the kick that I get that I'm going this much faster than everyone else.
Yeah, it's always relative. Sure.
Yeah, so if like
Fair
the
enough.
whole game halves in speed, as long as I can still find a way to go speedy comparatively to the average, then I'm still happy.
The problem though is that like often it's like for example, like it happened to lab runners is they compare it to how fast they were going previously. And that feels kind of bad often. When it's like, oh, all of a sudden I'm like a snail compared to what I was.
Yeah.
Like it is kind of weird, right? That GG has made the game so fast paced for like the last 8-9 years, and now all of a sudden they're just like, you know what? Nah, we're good. Like all the people who play PoE are kind of love it, and all the beta people have gone. Right, the people who want the game to be slow and like auto attack.
The betas.
The betas. It's like I don't know what I don't know why. I would just like to know why. Do they want to compete with like D4 or something? I'm not sure what they want to do.
I mean, the
Like,
game has slowed down significantly since we had like that ultra, speed clear meta where everyone was running strands and shield charging no matter what ability they were using, and shield charge
the
scale
bright
with the
beak
local
on.
attack speed, with the bright beak and everything.
Beak.
And,
Oh my god.
I mean,
yeah.
the game has
Jesus.
significantly steered back, but they just want to be very careful with slowing down people and taking away player power, which is why I'm so surprised about this league, by the way, because they're very aware of the ability that they have, that they could potentially like kill their game if they make changes that are too much of a restriction to players who got used to this. But I guess I lost my point. What was I trying to say? Don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily opposed to PoE being faster than when I played it in 2014. I just like to fight mechanically. I just like to see what monsters I'm fighting on the screen and what abilities they're using, and use positioning and smart ability use as a sort of counterplay, rather than having to build my character so strong that it doesn't matter what's happening. I can just go through.
That's weird.
I mean, if I see that shield charge elementalist footage from Palsteron, it's just a little bit too crazy. But I mean, it's completely fair if you can do that.
Shouldn't you be able to like opt in for that, like you are in Delve, or like you are in Diablo 3 with Greater Rifts, or like you are in like High Corruption for Last Epoch or Arenas, right? They can still be that content, but they can also be content for the zoomy stuff, which is like I just want to speed farm.
I guess, yeah, I would agree, and I also can't even imagine that for PoE. For me, PoE is that like if I want to play slow, I'll do like a Witcher 3 playthrough or something. I don't think about PoE as like ever. It was never that. So I never thought about PoE that way. It was never that really. If we think back, it's not like I feel like a lot of newer players think that in like 3.8 before they started, the game was so slow, and then all of a sudden it
Yeah.
accelerated, right? But you can go back to 2.2 and
was
see
so much
Q-Dog,
faster, yeah.
like Q-Dog destroying strands, right? Like shaped strands or whatever. And you're just like, no, the game has been slowing down over. It's like, I don't
They
know.
were
Like
like
people,
14-second maps.
yeah, it's like,
Like you would literally only turn around for an Exalt.
yeah.
Like that was the only thing that dinged on the filter was an Exalt or a mirror. That's what you'd turn for, nothing else.
I don't know, man. It's like, yeah, I'm not sure why they're making such a 180 right now. I feel like a lot of people, that's what they like about the game, and I just don't understand really. I feel like the game's fine. The game was always fun. I don't see any problem with it being speedy. It makes it unique, even.
I don't mind being able to go back a couple of map tiers and sacrifice power for mobility and all that stuff. I'm not generally opposed to the idea of speed farming. That can be a thing in the game. Just don't think that all the content should be speed farmable necessarily.
I mean, not all the content. Like, there's still bossing in the game, right? That's exactly what you're describing. That's exactly what you're describing. It's just mapping is something different, right?
Yeah. And I feel like this should also be like on top of mapping, kind of like 100% Delhi was on the first time it got released before it got out of control. You know, it should be like ways for people to still be able to invest in their builds and have a reason to do so outside of just running fast, or like delve, or like I'm not sure. I think the game is severely missing that incentive now, especially with this league having sort of removed the quant multipliers from everything. There's not much reason to invest in your maps quantity or rarity much anymore, outside of it potentially adding more rares, and potentially those rares being like, you know, dropping more divines or whatever, depending if it's a Solaris or Lunaris. But I think they so seldomly appear that it just makes no sense to be investing into your maps to just sort of like expect to encounter them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like, especially reading what Chris Wilson said, and he exactly said like how I feel about the game, where it's you should be rewarded for investing in your maps and in your character and things like that through adding quantity, juicing. But they achieved exactly the opposite this league. So
Yeah,
I just didn't understand. I
was
just
never
didn't
as good.
understand at all. Like now
Yeah.
it's all about flat rewards. You know, things that have exalted orb icons on them or chaos orb icons, and you're just farming as many of those as possible. And it's become less and less and less about just farming mobs, investing into your map, investing into quantity, character like quantity as well. Like it just makes no sense. There seems to be a disconnect.
No, I have a little bit of a bigger topic. You go ahead.
I was gonna say I started running little like Legion tests of like running Legion to see, because like obviously I can't do my massive juice anymore, and I'm like, okay, well I still like PoE too much to leave, so I'm gonna find other content that's fun. So my priority has been fun, not profit, because if I wanted profit, I'd just go to tier 1 maps and run the essences all day, which is a whole different problem. But I started with being like, okay, I'm gonna Legion farm. I'm gonna buy like 4 sextants and 1 delirium orb, and I'm gonna roll my maps to like 90 quant and val them, and we're gonna do just like mid-level juicing focused on Legion farming. And I ran like 20 maps and tracked all of my profit and was like, that's not great. And then I was like, all right, what happens if I just use 1 sextant to add a Legion and my Legion's Scarab, and then I just alch and go?
And it's way better.
And I was like, oh, I made the same amount of money per map.
Yeah.
Like the difference is like if I was making 50 chaos a map with all of the juice, I'm making like 48 chaos a map with just like 1 scarab, 1 sextant, no deli orb, no other juice, no re-rolling my map, and all my maps got easier and quicker. And I'm like, oh,
you know what?
So just don't juice. Just don't juice.
You know what I think could solve GGG's balancing issues, and in general just be good for the game? Remove rarity and quantity, like on gear completely. Remove like this thing where they kind of have to balance around it. It also feels bad. Like
They're not
me, it
gonna
feels
do that. They
antithetical.
just love Diablo 2 too much. They love the
Maybe.
idea of Magic Find and being able to invest into it, I believe.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's completely antithetical to anything that an ARPG is about. Like, making your character stronger should be rewarding. It should not be about balancing how shitty your character feels compared to how much loot you get. Right? Oh, I can. My character's strong enough now. I can make it weaker again by, I don't know, putting on a MF gear. Right? It's like, no, that I don't think that should be a game, and that should be a thing. And on the other hand, it's like it makes it so hard for GG to balance because they have to balance around that. They just have to. So it makes it weird in a sense.
Yeah, but
Like
it's
with
sort of
Rarity-
similar.
with Rarity
As it
right
used to
now.
be.
With Rarity right now, for example, it's crazy. Sorry, Tuna.
Either remove it or add it back as it used to be on like rare pieces of gear, rather than having to use Sedima Gold Rim and because that's like garbage. Yeah, running around with that stuff is complete trash.
But then it would be like mandatory on every item. It would be like if it was just like one suffix on a rare item, everybody would have to take it. It would be like a must-have at that point, right?
True.
It'd
So it
be
would
like
be
the
move
only
speed on
reason
boots.
it's even remotely balanced is because the gear you have to wear is literal trash. Like it's real bad.
Yeah, and then making your game harder is also more rewarding, right? Like I feel like in a sense, back in the day, MF was way stronger than it was nowadays. I mean, it kind of had a resurgence in Scourge, but I feel like in between MF for solo players, right? I should say, it got worse and worse over time because they added harder and harder content. So it made sense that you can't really make your character weaker, and you also got rewarded. Like Delhi was the start of the end for Quant, for example, for like solo play. You got very high rewards for making your character stronger. It's no joke to like go into a 100% Delhi map as a solo player. So I feel like they did right there, but it feels like they always have this problem to balance around that fact that Quant and Rarity is in the game.
I have a pretty
I don't know.
controversial take on this too. Like, and I kind of agree with you, and I think it's garbage. Like, I always hated running quantity. I think the way the system should work, in my eyes, it should be quantity and rarity should be tied around the difficulty of content that you're running.
So
And
just like with the map
how
mod
much-
system.
Yeah, the mob system, how many scarabs I put in, those scarabs adding difficulty, like all of this kind of stuff. I think group quant shouldn't exist either. And I think the reason for groups to exist would be because they can do more difficult content together, right? Because if you have an aura bot and a carry, you should be able to take on content that's much harder. Therefore, you should be able to scale up the difficulty even further than solo players and get rewarded for that. It shouldn't just be like just a static, have this guy follow you around and it's just you get 50% more loot.
The issue with that is that we're not even remotely close to a situation in which a solo player can't easily do the highest level of juice in the game with MF gear on. I've been doing it for leagues.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So the
It's a problem.
scale of difficulty doesn't exist.
Yep.
So
And
if
there's
you
the
did
problem.
something like that, you couldn't, there'd be no reason to have groups. There's no...
You know, the only problem, really the only problem for solo players is Headhunter. And I will never be like, I never want Headhunter to go. So there's the problem, right? If you remove Headhunter, you probably don't have that problem anymore for solo players. But at the same time, removing Headhunter would fucking suck.
I mean, I can do most of the 100%
No.
delirious stuff
At the point,
in MF gear with
at
a
the
rampage
point,
belt
no.
on.
At the point where you can comfortably do 100% Delhi on a non-Headhunter build, you have so much currency, it shouldn't matter anymore. Basically, that's what I would say. So
Okay.
I think Headhunter is the one problem. Like you get to on solo play, you get to Headhunter. It doesn't matter what your gear looks like, mostly, right? Like you need a good wand or whatever, but mostly you're done. So that's like the one problem. But on the same hand, you can't remove Headhunter. So I think I'd rather have Quant completely gone from the game than remove Headhunter. I'm gonna be honest.
True.
Immediately.
If I had to pick between those two, yeah, me too. And I quant farm every day, but I don't know. I like quant farming, and I don't really think I've ever put any thought into like, is this really good for the game overall? Because
I know,
what's
man.
really good for the game overall can only come from my own point of view, and I judge everything based on, is this fun? Do I want to do it? And
Headhunter is too much fun. It's too much fun.
It's quant farming is too much fun. Headhunter is too much fun. I don't want to lose either of those things.
Like you would take a loss on rolling beyond in previous leagues just because it was fun, even though you didn't, right? You didn't take a loss, like it was good, but
You just take rare mobs that give you like buffs, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing, like, we've never run head. It's hard. It's very hard to explain to people that MFing and running MF groups has never been profit driven. It's always been fun driven, always. Like the kind of players that do full MF juicing stuff.
There's a lot of people that do it strictly for profit as well. More than they do for fun.
I mean, maybe. But
because
it's
it's their fun method of choice to acquire currency,
maybe
but
that's
not
true because of perception. But in reality, if I didn't do those things and I instead did like boss carries and just sold them on TFT, I would build way more currency every day, day to day, than doing MF solo stuff in Crimson Temple last league. Like there are ways to make far more money than just doing MF or group play. It still made really good profit, but there are ways to make more as a solo player.
You could just
and so it was never like, when I say it wasn't profit driven, I didn't mean we weren't excited by the profit, right? I mean, we're not picking the content that's the most profitable thing you can possibly do.
It's like a trade-off, right? Like
content that's fun.
Yeah, that's still fun, right? You're not going to go for the... If something's more fun and it's not rewarding, you're still going to go for the one in the middle, right? Yeah, you're kind of like...
like it still needs to be rewarding. It still needs to give me profit. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it, obviously. Yeah. But
it's kind of like where
it wasn't the most profitable thing to do. It was fun and then profit second, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like where Delve is at the moment as well.
Yeah, I have no idea what Delve's what's happening in Delve right now. I just know some people who are just farming resonators all day and they're making bank. So I have no idea.
It's kind of like the fun has been taken out of it because the reward is only tied to literally just Azerite nodes. So it's like trash.
All right, because you get most resonators still from buying them with Azerite.
Well, yeah.
So there's no exciting loot. Is that the problem with Delve? It's just like Azerite.
Yeah, but even then, it's like there's not much reason to push anymore. Like the Azerite doesn't scale very well. There's also like they completely gutted the fossils. It's more like just a gamble now about finding bosses. And yeah, I mean, like if you really want to have a build that pushes, like you have to make currency outside of Delve for the most part to be able to afford your upgrades.
I wish they did more for Delve, like maybe give like flat reward. I mean, I know that's weird for PoE, but give like itemized rewards for like being the number one at like 1,000 or something. Like give actually interesting rewards. Because it is kind of like Greater Rifts in a sense, right? Quote unquote. It's like a endless thing. So it would be nice if they gave us more than like a chat entry for somebody who's actually devoted to it. Would be pretty nice.
Yeah. I think ladders in PoE suck.
Yeah.
They need to do better. It makes no sense why they don't have ladders. It's free content.
Yep.
Ladders, yes. I like in-game item rewards. I don't know. Wouldn't that like kind of promote the same situation again that we had with the lab items, where the market was pretty much
create a competition.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem as long as it's not like items that everybody wants. Like you put Omni Delve only or something. Like I think it's fine. It's just some like foil item or whatever, maybe.
Yeah.
Or some prestige.
Cosmetic.
Yeah.
It's just like, I was back in 3.20, I was Delve number 5K.
And you got like a coin that's useless or some shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like even then, like, but the thing is, like, you still need to be able to like go there and feel like I just wasted 8 hours of my time. I could have been mapping and made 100 times more currency. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I feel like this sort of needs to be a balance.
I mean, you still need to make currency, obviously. Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
Which in Delve, it's kind of like.
And that used to be a thing.
It's fine, but it's pretty rough.
But Delve used to be this. I didn't really delve much, even back in the day. But Delve used to be this thing, if I remember correctly, where once you get to a certain depth, now you're in the monies, right? And that's not there anymore.
No.
It's like all about early depth, right?
It's just opening chests at low depths. It's like heist. Yeah. I don't know. They killed the whole community with Delve, even though they actually made Delve better. The scaling is better, right? But they just there's nobody delving anymore.
Yeah.
To be honest, there's like 2 people, like I don't know, 5 people on the ladder, maybe doing it at the end of the league because there's nothing else to do, kind of thing. But it's no longer a competition or There's no longer like really a community, people driving up mirror prices because they need to mirror stuff to be able to push further, like, you know, things like that. That's like that was like a really fun gameplay.
No.
You had something you wanted to bring up, like you said, you had like a bigger topic, Palsteron?
Yeah, that was the quant
that was
stuff.
okay. Yeah, no,
That
I
was
was
the
just
quant.
making sure whether we naturally transitioned into this topic from like whatever we're talking about beforehand
Yeah.
or whether. All right. So, which one of the changes is actually the worst? Like, of the current frustrations, if you could walk one back, if you could be like, hey, we reset loot to what it was before, or we reset harvest to what it was before, or we take away Archnemesis and replace it with the old rares, or is there like one thing that you would trade the other
If you would
things
ask
for?
me, if you'd asked me day one, I would have immediately said Archnem. But I think right now I think all of those three are in an okay spot, and they need a little bit more adjustment. But I don't think they need to be reset. Any of those.
Beyond, man.
I'd take
Beyond, yeah,
back in a
beyond,
heartbeat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't think completely reset because Beyond is a little bit too strong. I still think it needs to be a little bit like kept in check, a little bit.
Sure,
Look,
keep it in check, but
I-
don't. This is garbage. What it
Yeah.
Keep it in check the same way you keep everything else in check, lowering the quantity and rarity of all of the mobs it gives me.
Yeah,
Just still give me the mobs.
yeah.
Just
Give me the
let me
fun
kill
now.
things.
Give me the
Yeah, that
HH
makes
boss,
sense.
please.
Yeah. That's what I want back. I want my Beyond back, and you can take away the same amount of rewards as you took away from everything else by lowering all of
What
its
if
quantum
you-
rarity. It's fine.
Yo, what
Just
if
give me
you
the mobs.
removed? What if you removed Beyond? If you brought back all Beyond, but you removed all of the Beyond stuff on the Atlas passive tree, and you removed it from like map, and then it's like a chaos sync to spam your maps for Beyond.
I already did that.
Yeah.
No, sure, but this would make it like a necessity, right?
That's fine. Okay, I was already doing that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Just give me Beyond back.
No matter what.
For sure.
Dude,
It's
Chaos
like
needs
Beyond
more
had
use
a fun
cases.
interaction with backside scaling and like Deli Mirror and things like that. Again, like scaling up the difficulty of your map to get more rewards essentially, but not. It doesn't have to be directly like Beyond monsters drop 6 links like they were for me, you know, like in previous leagues. But yeah, I mean, just let me like add stuff to my maps and give me reasons to do that. I wish there was more
Reward
reason
me
to do
for
that than just
investing
Deli.
into my map again. That's the important part.
Yep, and into my character.
Yeah,
Outside of
that
just
too.
quantity. But yeah.
Like I'm thinking about farming a Mageblood, and then I'm thinking, but I don't boss. What do I need a Mageblood for? My day 2 gear does all the content I could want to run.
You could argue
Why
that
do I need
like
that?
you could argue that it's like oh, you could use it to loot, but there
Yeah, I'd loot faster. That's. But here's the thing: I'm a really shit player. Giving me a Mageblood and a super quicksilver, it doesn't make me loot faster. It makes me misclick the loot faster. It makes me walk further away when I don't click the right place on the screen. It doesn't actually make me loot any faster.
Damn.
yeah, I don't know. It can be a fun item if you're bossing for sure, or doing invitations, or anything but mapping. In my
Yeah.
opinion, I
Imagine
feel like we're
mapping
like
with a
the old
Mageblood.
guard. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's like it's I think Mageblood is like too powerful though as well. It's a way to like you put it on, your whole character solved, everything about it. It doesn't matter anymore. Whereas Headhunter, it's like the only thing it really technically solves is like your strength and dex. But if you were to do any content outside of like killing a lot of rares, your build still it's like
Sucks.
yeah. Like if so you have to still make a good build, but Mageblood it's like it fixes your armor and your evasion, fixes your regen, fixes
Resists.
your mana, your resists.
Curse immunity.
It makes
Push
build
you-
making boring. It makes it
Yeah.
really, really boring. It's like I'm making an effort to never play with Mageblood, not just because I want to make content, but also because it takes all the fun away. Whenever I make POBs and I go into Mageblood, it's just like every build looks kind of the same, if that makes sense. Not really,
think-
but the problem solving always looks the same.
Yeah, problem solving.
I think it's really
solves
fun.
everything.
Once. I
Yeah,
think it's really
use it
fun
once.
to have a Mageblood once or twice.
I think Mageblood is
But-
perfect for people who don't want to think about their build. they just want to slap it on and they want their build to be a currency making machine. They get their Mageblood and it's done, right? You're set for life. But I think if you want to do like if you have, I think taking away the problem solving is a problem in itself.
Yeah, for sure. It says don't most HH builds look exactly the same. HH builds don't exist
Yeah.
anymore.
HH builds are literally okay. You might need the decks from Headhunter, but you can just replace the belt, and if it's still a build, then it's a build, right? But
Exactly.
and you can just slap on Headhunter, and it's better. But
Like since Self Curse is gone, like HH builds don't really exist anymore.
yeah,
Like, they're just mapping builds that get stronger.
Self Curse used to be Headhunter was the entire build.
Yeah.
It didn't function. Now, if your build doesn't function without a Headhunter on, with the exception of the stats, like if you just had another belt with a stat requirement, if your build doesn't function without it, it's a shit build. When you
or
put
it's
a
an
Headhunter on
MFR,
too.
or it's an MFR. Yeah.
What it does enable is it enables you to be able to take on maybe something that's like a little like harder that your build wouldn't necessarily be able to take on, like 100% deli, right? Like yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like with further investment into the build that has a Headhunter, generally you could always get to the stage where you can clear that content. It just requires more investment. But if you think about it, at the end of the day, if you were to invest those 120 Divine Orbs into the rest of your character and not into your Headhunter, you could probably still clear the same content you can with a Headhunter. It just wouldn't be as
Almost
fun.
certainly.
Yeah. It just wouldn't be as fun. That's all. Because like Headhunter is expensive, man. It's not like it's free.
How much is it right now?
120 Divines.
It's crazy. Yeah.
120 divines. Wow.
Yep.
I think I bought mine last league for around 90x. That's even if it was X, so going from 90 to 120 is crazy.
I bought mine last league for 25.
Right?
Oh yeah, before they buffed it
Oh
back.
yeah.
I was a believer,
exactly.
dude.
They're not gonna fix that. Yeah, I bought mine, I think, for like 44 or something. Yeah, I was like, they're gonna fix it, dude. They're gonna fix it.
I bought it so early. It was 19.
Damn.
Yeah, I was still in my perseverance.
And then I just put it in my stash because it was trash. And everyone's like, why?
I actually used it.
They're so bad. And I'm like,
I actually used it. It was
"They won't
okay.
be."
It was okay. It was actually not that bad even before I got. But it wasn't good. Like it was like it was better than any other rare belt, right? Still, and it had dexterity.
I
You
also
should still use it.
I also bought a replica Headhunter, and I wore it and an Inspired Learning until they fixed Headhunter.
Oh yeah.
You know what's crazy? I'm looking at softcore trade right now. There's 5 Headhunters up, online and offline.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
it's completely insane.
Cards. You can't MF
Cards,
cards anymore. So
Yeah.
most of the Headhunters disappeared from the market because you can't MF the cards.
either.
And you get less. You do get less T1 uniques, right? Like I feel like I have dropped 2 T1 uniques this whole patch, and I have like I don't know 2 mil kills or something, a little bit more. It's like I don't know what's going on.
They made the rarities like they bumped them up, and they told us they bumped them up. You know.
Like I've been running with shield
bump it
charge
up for some things.
My shield charge now is 360 rarity or something, and I have not seen like anything like worthwhile at all so far. I mean, my filter is strict, but in the future, in the past, you would drop stuff, right? There would still be stuff that shows up.
I mean, from time to time, yeah, but not really. Like
Yeah, but-
in previous leagues, Blessed and Beyond, it's not like I would get ages like very commonly.
I got, I don't know, 2 or 3 ages a day consistently. Last league. As a
3
solo
ages a
player.
day.
2 or 3
2 or
per
3
day.
ages Auroras per day.
It's
That seems a bit
ridiculous.
busted.
No.
And that was as a solo player.
Wow.
I mean, my days are also 14 hours. So, like, you know, per day isn't like 3 hours play in the afternoon. Like, I'm a degenerate no life. It is a 14-hour day.
I don't know. Maybe mine were all corrupted. That's why they didn't show up on my filter. Maybe they're all bricked.
See, I don't run that corrupted sexton ever. I never did in the past because it like takes away my gear, and I'm so scared that there'll be like a Headhunter on the floor and it'll just be a rare leather belt. And
Dude,
I just
skin
won't see
transfer
it.
easy.
Like,
What do you mean?
I just picked up Divines. That was my fun because I don't know. It was really fun to be able to like scale pack size and get like direct feedback of it.
Yeah.
And quantifying that as like If you invest more, you get more divines. It's like the most like black and white way to feel your investments.
For me, the fun of it is dropping the most rare items in the game. It's why my filters also still show and have shown Skyforce, even though like Skyforce are trash. They're worth like 2C. But I still have them showing up on my like super strict MF filter because they're like tier 0 uniques, and it's exciting to force them to drop on the floor.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you don't pick them up.
I think the T1.
They're super giga rare, aren't they?
They're definitely not HH rarity. I've dropped a shitload of them.
You're right. They're not HH or Mageblood rarity, but they're still very rare.
I don't even know about like party play and like because we have it in chat right now, like party play fixing rarity to an extent, which is true. But I'm just thinking, if party play was the one thing that fixed rare uniques being like affordable, that's a problem in itself, right? That has to be addressed.
But
it's
not party play's fault. It doesn't have. They removed the juice, man, and they removed.
No, it's not. Not just that. But I just feel like there's a further discussion where like this argument where party play kind of devalued the uniques to a point where you could actually use them is a good thing, or it's like necessary thing in the game. I feel like the game should be balanced without that even in mind. I don't think that should be like a part of the economy that has to happen. Like, if, for example, it can't be that MP doesn't play the league and all the uniques are now expensive. That's kind of a problem, right? Obviously, there's more groups. I'm just like over exaggerating, but you know what I mean.
To do with the groups, though, honestly,
it has at league start. It has a lot to do with the groups. I feel like, but it tapers off throughout the league.
Would be filled by solo players, like because like the opportunity cost of going into that content would go down because groups wouldn't be buying out all the materials. Therefore, it'd be more worth for solo players. Sure, there'd be a little bit less, but there'd be more solo players doing it. The problem is the quant and rarity on the monsters.
Yeah, for sure,
It's the same problem that the group teams are having. But like, I don't normally group, right? I've done 6 to 10 man parties before several times, but I tend to mostly just play on my own, and I'm also not doing it because
you know how I feel.
Problem.
No, I get what you mean, but I feel like parties are usually carrying in the first few days, and then it's like div card hunting, right? Where solo players more come in. But I never really felt like the game is balanced around not having teams just shitting out uniques, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like a weird thing to balance. Going back to like the quant gear from earlier.
You can also make the argument that your casual player shouldn't be able to easily afford an Aegis Aurora, and the fact that we were all devaluing these really disgustingly good build enabling things was a bad thing, and that they should be expensive chase items that can't just be bought.
You could, but then
argument you could make.
You could, but the problem is always like what we talked about Archnem earlier, right? If 3.15 didn't happen, Archnemesis wouldn't have been as bad. But they're just taking away character power of a character power. Then you can't divine, right? Which means all your stats are going to be a little bit worse overall. And then it's like this happens and this happens, and you can't have you don't have the full harvest anymore. So now you have one mod on your end game items less, right? So it just adds up over time, and that's just one more thing on top. Where Aegis is now also expensive, so now you also can't live as like a left side of the tree build. It's just so many factors at once that kind of led to this league, I feel like.
Rare shields are so good, though. You don't need Aegis.
No, like Aegis is just like the rare shield can't compete. It's like you can't not run Aegis. It's like,
If you can get a life block on hit shield or whatever, but it's nowhere near as good.
Well, they nerfed fucking on block on shields too, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
By it's weird. Like, why didn't they it's like they have these weird design things where it's like, oh, life on block is like everyone's using it and it's bad. Okay, don't nerf life on block. Nerf fucking what is it called, glancing blows. So now nobody uses glancing blows. Like, I don't know. They have like these really weird like design philosophy sometimes.
Yeah, where sometimes the game is hard, so now everybody is like shoehorned into something, and then they're like, oh, the game is not too hard, it's just everybody's using that, so let's nerf that, so they don't have anything anymore. It's kind of weird.
That links back to the conversation that I brought up earlier that we moved on rather quickly from with the Grace Determination thing.
Yeah.
Where
like I said, I think we said Fizz taken as. I don't know. Do you have more to add other than the Fizz as taken as?
I was gonna say that I don't like the idea that everyone's running them because they're so good, but I also don't think everyone's running them, like you said, A. And B, if they were to nerf them, you have to take into account that a 50% base mana reservation cost is a huge investment. It's a huge opportunity cost, and there's other good things that you could be running. Maybe they should introduce more, like other
I think it would
reservations, but there are already so many competing.
I think it would be cool if they put like Fizz taken as on the tree, for example. I think that could be a cool thing. But in general, I don't know. It's hard to
What
say.
else are you gonna do with your mana? Unless mana builds exist again, there's no point in not reserving.
Yeah.
They could make offensive auras better again, but I don't know if that would solve.
They're pretty good.
I guess what I'm trying to say
okay.
is that determination was too bad to use for the 50% reservation for so long, and now it's in a spot where it's actually worth. And I don't think it needs to be nerfed. Sure, I'm running it on every build in hardcore, but if it was in softcore, I'd be
no,
like,
I don't, yeah, I agree. No, I don't think. I think it's perfect right now. Yeah.
How's this for a thought? If dodge still existed and people could run Grace and get dodge and evasion still, do you really think so many people would all be running determination? Like, I wouldn't be going out of my way to get an extra 100 strength on my Deadeye to run determination while I'm on the right-hand side of the tree if I could still go dodge.
I think dodge was just like a band-aid fix for the right side of the tree. I think I like it way more like it's now. Like, everybody was going acro phase acro. It was kind of ridiculous, let's be honest.
The problem is Molten Shell.
Yeah.
It's
Molten
not,
Shell
it's
is
not
a big problem.
It's Molten Shell.
And Aegis, both are a problem, IMO.
True.
Because like if they nerf the shit out of Molten Shell, there would be so much less incentive to go towards like
100%.
stacking armor, and then you'd rather go for Fizz taken as.
Also, Molten Shell, in my opinion, Molten Shell makes more sense on Grace. Honestly, like obviously not thematically, but Grace kind of makes more sense that you need to shield up in case you get hit. Whereas armor, it just, I don't know. Like if you would, for example, swap Molten Shell from determination to from armor to evasion, now all of a sudden Grace is the number one, and that tells you how strong Molten Shell just is, right?
You know
Why
what?
is the
you
default
know what
to nerf Molten Shell when I feel like the default should be there are like 4 other guard skills and they're all fucking trash.
More,
Why?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I was gonna say
give evasion one as well.
There should be one for evasion.
Yeah.
Why aren't there guard skills that I can use when I don't have armor that are actually worth it?
True.
Like,
we're sort of born and bred by GGG, right? Like when we see a problem, we see it almost the way they do at this point, where it's like, oh, what's the problem? Everyone's using determination. Okay, it's Molten Shell. Gotta nerf it, right? Yeah, like sure, I'd rather have like new guard skills or buff the other guard skills. Like yeah, I'd rather have that than to nerf determination, because it would suck for like one thing that feels garbage in this game is like investing into defense and feeling like you've adequately invested into them, but still dying.
One thing I think should happen as well is buff. Like I don't want to nerf spell suppression at all. I think they should buff spell block. I've done some totem builds on the left side of the tree, like spell totem builds, and it is ridiculous how many points you need to cap your spell block, and then you still have these 25% of times where you get fucked, right? Like spell suppression is just straight up better. 100% spell suppression is just more consistent than than 75% spell block, right? So, but you have to work way harder to get the spell block. So that's one thing that I would like to see, maybe.
That's where Glancing Blows was good, man. It was like basically like spell suppression but for block, and then they made it into literally click this note to take more damage.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I kind of like Glancing Blows, like still after the nerf. But then it was in Gauntlet, and it was a band-aid fix until I got spell suppression to 100%, and then when I had 100% spell suppression, I still kept it, because I was like, well, in 75% of the cases, I'm still, like, reducing even more damage, right? Yep. But Glancing Blows by itself just feels really, especially when you're already on that left side, and you could instead be going for a full block with a little bit more investment. The downside of Glancing Blows probably a little bit too harsh at this point.
For sure. Same with the downside on Wind Dancer and Arrow Dancing. I did try to do something with it this league, but like Like, come on, man. Be real.
I thought
Wind Dancer-
arrow
Wind
dancing
Dancer's
was
so bad.
okay, but wind dancer is terribly bad.
Wind Dancer used to be so good.
Yeah.
We used to
To be
take it on
fair,
every build.
I think it was a little bit too. I think they could have just nerfed it numerically and it would have been fine. Honestly, they could
Yeah.
have brought it to 20% and it would have been not something anymore that you path for. But if you're nearby, it's like, okay, I'll take it.
I mean, it was like damage reduction if you haven't been hit recently, right?
Yeah.
Which made a lot of sense with dodge, and then they removed dodge, and then still take spell hits.
Yeah.
So in the current meta, it's not even that strong anymore. But still, they kept it shit. So I don't get it. Same thing with Wind Ward. Why it's terrible? Because there's a lot of spell hits in this game. I mean, evasion is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I think evasion is like really good. It's in a
Evasion's
really
really
good state.
strong.
It feels like you really feel very, very like. If you invest heavily in evasion in an early league and like a little bit of armor, I feel like in softcore you'll feel much better than if you were invested in armor.
I love that you don't need armor on, like, if you have Fizz as, for example, on the poison build I had like Taste of Hate and I had Darkscorn, right, which is 40%
Yeah.
Fizz as. That felt really good. It was like I ran a Granite Flask on top just because a little bit of armor is always nice, but it didn't feel like I needed to get out of my way and needed to do something that the right side doesn't do, if that makes sense. It was more like it was a good Grace plus spell suppression plus like Fizz taken as. It felt like it made sense. It was like,
I didn't take any armor at all on when I was
Yeah.
playing Scourge.
and it was fun.
Yeah, it felt fine.
Yeah.
It didn't feel bad at all. I mean, I was playing the Cosmic nodes, so oftentimes I would end up taking 250% more damage for my map, but
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a small price to pay.
that's the small price to pay for 30 Ickers, dude.
Give me all the Ickers.
Yeah.
On
Like,
that
I'm not
note,
the type of
like
player to like kill myself and then be like, why did this happen? You know?
Because I have currency. That's why. I'm rich. It doesn't matter.
Sorry, Cat.
I just wanted to quickly ask one last question because I noticed that we're quite deep into the time of the podcast already, so I'd like to round things off. But now that you brought up Eldritch Currency, and I'm personally not at that point where I get a lot of it, I was gonna ask, do you think Eldritch Currency is in a good spot? Because I've heard from a lot of people that it's a little bit too rare, especially now that that's the only way to sort of lock prefixes and suffixes outside of the meta mods
you
on the
mean
bench.
Exalts and Nulls, you mean?
And the Chaos, most notably.
Oh,
yeah.
and the Chaos.
Way too
I
rare.
think, yeah, they are too rare. It's weird because Exalts are now actually usable, right? So a lot of a little bit of their usability has gone down, but yeah, I definitely think it's too rare. Yeah.
Especially the Exalt annuls, now that the changes have happened, now that I'm like far more willing to use an Exalt, there should be a lot less. There's a lot less
Restrictive to get
intrinsic
them.
value to one of those Eldritch Exalts, and they feel incredibly rare compared to their power level, given that I can just use an Exalt without caring now.
Yeah.
To be fair,
Sure.
I mean, the Eldritch Exalts were not that much better than regular Exalts.
They were
for a
just
lot of
cheaper.
cases.
They were
Yeah.
just
They
cheaper.
were
I mean, the
slightly
Null.
better because we could
Null
go
is a lot better.
specifically for a prefix or a suffix, which is
Yeah, the Null is
that's
a lot
some
better.
extra power.
Yeah.
But we were comparing it to a 150C item before, and now we're comparing it to a 12C item, and
Yeah.
it's not. It didn't get changed with all the other changes. I think
sure.
that's just like a lag or a forgetness. Forgetness? That's not a word, Baylor. It's just like a thing they forgot to change. I reckon they'll probably up the drop rates of those next league when they're like, oh, Exalts aren't really that great anymore, but we want people to be using them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair take. I just wanted to get a little bit of a sneak preview whether I should be looking forward to getting plenty of them to play around with.
No,
Or
they only
not.
drop from buses.
And they don't drop as often anymore. Like, I think I've gotten like, I don't know, not that many.
So the only way you can get them is by fighting, basically, like you shouldn't really be fighting the pinnacle ones, the ones before them.
The Black
Like
Star
juiced-
and the Unending Hunger.
Yeah, because they're easier and because you get more of them, right? Because they're cheap and stuff. I guess in SSF it doesn't really matter, but
Do
essentially
they drop a
you
lot of them
almost-
though? I don't remember them dropping a lot of them. I remember
They
like
don't.
I had last league when I played softcore trade. I think at some point at like 20 or 30 of the poop boss invitations, and I ran them all in a row. And on the first
Yep.
one, I got an Eldritch Chaos and like some other stuff, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good." And then I ran all of them, and I didn't get anything else
You get it.
or something like that.
They used
So-
to drop a lot in maps, and they used to, but now they, like for example, I think I've dropped like maybe, I can look for you right now because I barely did any of the bosses. So
I also
I have
haven't
like
sold
millions and
any.
millions and millions of kills. I have 4 chaos, 1 in all, 6 exalt.
I
Okay.
also haven't sold any, and I've done tons of mapping, but no boss. Let's see what I've got.
Let's see. Oh fuck! It's bugged again.
I've done like 30 bosses as well, by the way.
I have 4 chaos, 1 annul, and no exalts.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess the
Yeah,
chaos
4
shouldn't-
exalts, 2
Oh.
annuls, 1 chaos.
1 chaos, and you didn't use any. The chaos are really the good things, in my opinion. I mean, the exalts are, like you said, slightly better than a regular exalt, but now that the exalts are cheaper, they should probably be more common. The chaos makes sense if they stay the same, even though I'd like more of them, but it makes sense if they want fewer safe states in the game, fewer like fixed points where you can reach something.
But the chaos sucks now. I don't know if you
How does the
know what
chaos
they
suck
did to
now?
them. Oh, because like
Did they
it
change how
pretty
it
much-
worked?
Yeah, like I mean, basically it's like you use one, and 80% of the time you're only gonna get 1 mod.
It's like an exalt at that point. An exalt where you can't block, right?
You can't block. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So exalt would just be better. You block exalt, it's better than the chaos. But there's still niche use cases for chaos. That's why it's still worth.
Well, I mean,
quite a
they're,
bit.
they're still good for freeing up like one half of
You
the
just use
item
it
if
as
it's
an
full.
all, right?
Yeah.
Veiled chaos are just better in most cases for those sort of things.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah, but
unfortunate
you
because
have
when
to-
they first came out, they were amazing, right? That you could like keep the amount of mods
Yeah.
that you had on the item, and you would cycle through them. But yeah, now it's
Yeah. Also
basically just, like,
for. Also
basically
for
just like an exalt shit.
for Veiled Chaos, you have to do 2 divines, right? Because you have to do can't be changed. For Veiled Chaos, you don't.
Eldritch Chaos, you mean?
Eldritch Chaos, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Seems like there could still be some adjustments or like something could to make it feel better.
They were
Maybe.
good when they came out, man. Why did they have to make them 100 times rare? Fuck.
No fun zone.
Like man, like sometimes I'm thinking to myself, like they saw Gauntlet and they were like, "Holy shit, people are liking this. Let's make it into the main game." It's like, fuck, dude. Like, relax. Like, yeah, let us scale up the game like later on, but not everything has to be a pain in the ass. Like relax a little bit. Like, I don't know.
That I think that's we should cut it off here because that's the perfect closing remark. There's a lot of fun things in the game. It just all feels a little bit out of whack right now, but it
Yeah.
makes sense because it's like I said that on stream and I might have said it on a previous podcast. So at the risk of repeating myself, I just feel like they did a massive spring cleaning, partially even without telling us. And the way that you do that is, you just can't go into like, between the spices and the flour and the pasta and everything. No, you got to take everything out, clean it from the ground on up and put it back in. And that's what they did with the rare monster system. And that's what they did with the removing the large legacy quantity bonus from the old leagues and stuff. And yeah, it doesn't feel good right now, but I think we're in a good situation to continue building on the game from here. Because
Yeah, I hope the next few buffs, the next few patches are going to be good, right? They already said they're going to address some stuff. I hope next league is not going to be Archnem 3.0. Let's just hope. They're like, yo, we have a new idea. It's like, how about 6 mods? It's like, okay, bro, slow down.
Hey, give me 6 mods. Just let me opt in.
No.
Yeah. Make it like
There's a lot of positive things I could say. Like I think the when you see the Lunaris or Solaris, you're kind of hyped, man.
It
It's
is.
kind of
Yeah.
cool shit.
you-
It is a little bit.
I've refused to get a color, which has mean it's a lot less rewarding.
Same.
But I'm
Screw that.
refusing
Doesn't
on
matter.
principle, which is fine. I'm accepting that I'll have 1 or 2 divines instead of
They should
12 or
fix
15
that.
divines. That's
They should
fine.
fix that.
Yeah.
Everyone is in agreement that like getting a color for your regular mapping is bullshit. That needs to be
Cringe,
addressed somehow.
yeah.
But I did get a really bad feeling yesterday that I didn't like. I was opening a Legion, and right at the end of the Legion, I found a Solaris to touch mob, and I just didn't break it out in time.
Oh,
I
man.
lost 10 maps worth of
Oh
profit
man.
because I just didn't break it out. And I was like, that's my next 10 maps worth of profit.
Just break it out,
Like,
dude. Why did? Just
I
get
just
a better
saw
build,
it
right?
at the last moment.
I think that's
And
cool,
then
dude.
I was like, oh no. And there was like 1 second left. And I killed like 80% of it in that second. And then the Legion opened and I was like, oh, the rare's not there. My next 10 maps are worthless. And I was like, that's a pretty bad feeling.
Oh man.
I don't know. I think that's all right in a way. I know it sucks, but I think that's okay. Cause like I'm adding all these things to my maps where it's like breach, where it's like Harvey, and they could despawn on me. But the fact is that like if you didn't add those things to your maps, they wouldn't be there in the first place, right?
At least you have a chance this way. Yeah.
You gotta have monk mental, but I think it's
Yeah.
good. Because if you screw up or if you're not good enough, then you lose.
I tell you what, it is the first thing that's made me want to invest more in my character though. I'm like doing Corrupting Fever and I'm like, you know what? If I was Tornado Shot, I wouldn't have missed that.
Right.
It's just more expensive to be Tornado Shot, Corrupting Fever. Like it's way more expensive than just wands. And I was like, there's no reason. I don't need to. But then that happened and I'm like, man, if I was Tornado Shot, I wouldn't have missed that. That was maybe I do want to invest. Maybe I do want to go.
So I think that's good.
So-
I think that's good gameplay.
Well, that's the perfect segue into what are your ambitions for the immediate future of the league. So Balor is going to save up for a transition to Tornado Shot.
Yep.
That's already covered. What are you going to do next, Tuna?
I want to make builds. So now I'm playing Poison Spark, which I didn't play last league, so it's kind of cool. Next thing I'll make, probably, I'm not sure. There's probably like a few things that I'd like to try, but at the moment just in currency farming mode to try the next thing. Maybe, I don't know. I like exploding stuff, so probably something to do with explode. Yeah,
Something
just making
occultist?
builds and keep myself entertained, and because it's gonna be kind of hard this league, I think, to not lose motivation. So as a content creator, you gotta stay motivated for the boys that want the content, and for yourself, so you don't go crazy. So yeah, I mean, gotta have strong mental for this one, and just find fun things to do. I think that's about it.
I mean, honestly, in that sense, it's probably good if the things that previously you always enjoyed as the most fun things are not the most fun things anymore. And like you're sort of forced into engaging with the parts of the game that you normally don't engage with. Keeps things fresh for a while. And if the thing that you previously did isn't worth doing next league, chances are, I mean, if just like you, no one else did it, then chances are they might buff it up again a little. Who knows?
That would be nice.
I can't imagine that the design goal is that like investing in your maps is not worth it beyond a certain point. I mean, they just
It's the
they
opposite of
want it to be
Christian.
not an extreme outlier, right? But
I think they
It's
fucked
not-
up. I think
it's
they
not
want that to
intentional.
be a thing. Yeah, I don't think it's intentional.
The
It doesn't make any
design-
sense.
Design philosophy post or whatever was something I was
Literally
like, oh, I
exactly
agree
the
with all of this.
opposite,
It's great.
Same.
And
Yeah.
but the result is not the same. So they've
Yep.
obviously screwed it up. It will not stay like this. It might stay like this for this whole league, but it's not a permanent thing.
It almost feels like sometimes they lost like one or two people in the balancing team in the last two patches that are now working maybe on PoE2. I can only imagine, right? That are not in the team anymore, and it feels like there's some whack decisions that wouldn't have been made like a few years ago, or not even just whack, but like changes that are so radical, and they're not being seen as radical. So it feels weird.
Also, someone just severely messed up the rewards and
Yeah.
Like it makes
Yeah,
no
lake
sense.
is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what do we? Is it?
Someone
Are
just
we now
messed
at
up.
double loot and we're still not even halfway there to it being good? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So,
It's
So
not even
I've
close to
been-
how good it should be.
I've been casually running lakes in the background this whole podcast, and I've made about 14 chaos.
Yo,
in
GG,
2
dude.
hours. I could do that in one map. Like, this is not good.
They're usually a lot more, but like you have to like set it up properly and whatever. But like
Yeah,
the
these are
average
bad
is
likes,
anywhere
but still.
between
So you made one
anywhere
exalt,
between
huh?
20 to 40. But
Like
20 to
1x.
40C every 10 maps, I don't think is okay.
Yeah.
You could get lucky and drop a divine, right? Like sure, and that'll bring up your averages, but the average, right? I'm talking about the average, 20 to 40, maybe 60 at like the very very top. Every 10, 15 maps, that's not okay. Because when you pull out like literally 60 C plus per map, usually on a map that's even pretty low investment, just a one scarab, you know. I don't know. I don't think that's okay. I don't think that's good. Like you click an Icar Shrine at the start of a map, you'll walk out with more than you will from a lake, from one shrine.
Yep.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. Fix that. It's gotta be fixed. You gotta get
Fix
people
the
excited about the
game!
league again.
Fix
gotta
the
give-
fucking game!
They gotta
Yeah.
get people excited, man. Like, huh?
Yeah, and
Come
I
on, man,
want
come
people
on.
to be at least excited about the league mechanic. And, you know, if that means they need to buff it. I think right now I'm still excited, but I've also been saving up lakes, and I was going to run them, but then I died off stream a couple of days ago, so I was like, But I'm definitely looking forward to like coming weekend to run all the tablets that I've been saving up, and then I'll have a maybe stronger opinion. But it's also for me, for SSF, the threshold for it to feel worth running is a lot lower, because you know it's my only source of getting these amulets and rings, and it's my only source of I don't know, not pretty much that. The other things I can get elsewhere, probably with far less risk of a rip. Seeing that the difficulty scaling is insane. But yeah, Palsteron, what are your plans for the immediate future? Any new builds coming, or are you going to stay on that Elementalist shield charge for a while?
I mean, I just finished my gear yesterday. We just got to like red maps today, so it's like we're gonna farm with that a little bit. We're gonna do like the whole expedition harvest strat, and yeah, it's really really fun. It's crazy fast. It's like explodey, chain explodey, like the old explodey.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it's gonna depend on whether tablets get buffed. If tablets get buffed, like to a point where I'm just super hyped about it, I'm gonna make some 600 move speed character and just gonna rush them.
Make tablets.
Yeah, just tablet boy all league. But otherwise, I'm just gonna make I don't know, probably something for like choosier content, maybe simulacrum or something. I don't know yet. We'll see.
That's when you know a league mechanic is good, when people start making characters to create league mechanics.
Yeah,
As much as
Exactly.
you think it was fucking weird that people would make speedrunners to collect seeds, that meant Harvest was good.
yeah, it was. It was.
Was there any doubt about Harvest being good?
No, but I mean, like on Harvest League itself, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's like the league mechanic should dictate how people play. And
Yeah,
this
I
league,
think so as
people
well.
are playing. These people are playing standard. This league.
Yeah.
That is true, to some degree at least. And maybe not be the be-all, end-all, but it should definitely have an impact on build choice. And I mean, I guess it probably does have a little bit of an impact. People probably choosing less shield charge builds.
It's so bad.
Yeah, I'm not doing any lakes with this build. I can tell you that. I'm in my
That's so
mesas all day.
sad.
That's good to know. Yeah. Yeah. As for myself, if anyone is interested in that, I'm putting together another Absolution Guardian, because like I said, died off stream, ran into a Rogue Exile node in Delve, and the Rogue Exiles at the top end have extremely high HP value scaling. And I somehow didn't make the mental connection that would also apply to Delve. So I walk into the thing and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to burst. Okay, bursting is not happening. They're all surviving. Shit. I can't focus. And I ran around like a chick. I was like, I could try and stick in for a little bit longer. Maybe I can get one down and work from there. And then, I was just like, okay, I have to log. but I really waited way too long because I relied on my logout being available, and then I noticed in the middle of trying to log out that I hadn't started the macro that day. It was just like,
Damn.
I was just doing like, office work, writing emails and stuff like that, and then spontaneously decided to do some mapping on the side.
Oh no.
And then I died. But it would have never happened if I would actually logged out at the point where I intended to log out. It was just my mess up. I need to maybe auto start the macro, or for a while I've always looked into it, and I when I started the game I made sure that I got it running, because when I log in I press the button for hideout, right? For the /hideout macro. So normally I notice when I don't have it running, but in that case, probably because I wasn't streaming.
You know what the softcore equivalent for that is? You forget to put on your awaken period trade, and you buy something for 0.6 divines, and you're porting to the hideout, and you're wait, whoa, I can't do math. What the hell? Fuck.
I can't do math. That's me. Okay. I can't do the math. I need the macro to tell me how many chaos that is, or I'm screwed.
Bro, I'm an engineer. I can't do 4 times 7 without a calculator. I'm not even kidding.
I do it sometimes just because I don't trust myself. I don't know.
I grew up with calculators, man. I don't know how to use my brain.
You don't need to know how to do the math. What you need to know is what math needs to be done.
Yeah.
Calculators exist to do the math for you.
That's what my teachers told me as I was growing up. They're like, when you grow up, you'll have this on your watch. And I was like,
but to be fair, you can save so much time if you can do most simple math in your head. Also in IRL, so much time. It's QL, dude.
Yeah, I suppose.
It helps to at least be able to ballpark it, right? It also, protects you from user error when you rely on your calculator too much.
Yeah, and you're 4 times 4, and you mistype, and you're 27. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
It did happen to me in the past, which is why I bring it up, because actually being able to calculate in your head is makes it a lot easier. But yeah. Despite all our collective efforts to not end it, we're going to end the podcast here. I think that's a great point. If you guys haven't yet, I would like to invite you to, of course, check out the broadcasters that were here today. Make sure you leave a follow at Tuna's, at Palsteron's, at BalorMage's if you haven't yet. Now, I realize most of you are from there, but always wanting to get out these things. And check out the episode in full. It's going to be uploaded on my YouTube. It's going to be uploaded on all the podcast platforms. And there's going to be more episodes. There is going to be one upcoming on Saturday, 12 p.m. That is the 3rd of September. We're going to be talking to DS Lily and Era. And it's going to be interesting to discuss, hopefully, a little bit more about GGG communication. Maybe we'll get another post, maybe even another patch before the weekend. Who knows? Maybe Lakes get Omega buffed, and that would be cool to see, right? So, yeah. If you guys want to be super supportive, you can go and write a review for the podcast on one of those platforms, because I believe we don't have a single review except for one that I wrote 3 years ago, because people are super lazy to write reviews on Google Podcasts and whatever. But if you don't want, that's fine. Just make sure you're here for the next episode. And until then, I wish you wonderful farming in Path of Exile, and we'll see you around. Did I say thank you for coming on? Thanks, Tuna, and thanks, Palsteron, for being on.
No, you didn't.
And taking
I felt
time
so
out of your
bad,
day.
dude.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to quit the call immediately. It was what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, you were about to block me on Discord and say that you're not coming again.
What the hell?